call to order the Isle of Wight Planning Commission meeting for March the 24th, 2026. At this time, we will ask Commissioner Johnson if he would give us our invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you now with thanks. Thanks for this beautiful day. Thanks for this community we have that we can enjoy the beauty of in this country with many freedoms and opportunities. We ask you to be with us this evening as we review some very important issues and help us to understand the different aspects and provide guidance for us to make proper decisions to support the citizens of this community. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Ask everybody to stand as we get the pledge to the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. At this time, can we have roll call, please?
Brian Carroll.
Here.
James Ford.
Here.
Jennifer Boykin.
Here.
Rainer Gibbs.
Here.
Matthew Smith.
Here.
Brian Shotwell.
Here.
George Rawls.
Here.
Keith Johnson.
Here.
Thomas DeStefano.
Here.
Bobby Bowser.
Present.
Chairman, you have the quorum.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, do we have any actions to table or withdraw?
There are no items this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Now for the approval of the agenda, is there?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest with the list of public hearings tonight that we consider moving item B from old business to just after citizens' comments. Mr. and Ms. Baker, I believe, are here. We could do that item early on the agenda.
All right,
That's my motion.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried. Thank you very much. At this time, we open the floor for citizens' comments. If there's anyone here to like to speak on anything that is not on our agenda, you can come forward at this time. All right, seeing none, we close the citizens' comments. Let's go back. I missed the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Motion carried. All right, let's move to the agenda, first of all, excuse me. If we would go down to item B there. Amanda, if you would read that for us, please.
Application EXC 24-3 of Jeffrey D. and Christina L. Baker, property owners, for an after-the-fact exception under the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area Ordinance for an unauthorized retaining wall, patio, and shed in a 50-foot landward resource protection area buffer at 312 Lakeview Lane on tax map number 43A 08059.
Good afternoon. I'm Shawnee Beesing, the Environmental Planner. So some details on this application. It's 312 Lakeview Lane, and this is for an after-fact exception for an unauthorized retaining wall, patio, and shed, all which lie within the 50-foot section of the RPA buffer. Some background on this property. The lot was created in 1968. In 2009, there was a previous exception granted on this property for a house. Part of the conditions on that was that no further encroachments for any accessory structures, decks, or impervious coverage would be granted. In 2017 through 2018, the house was constructed. The current owners, the Bakers, purchased it in 2018. In 2021 and 2022, a pier was constructed. And shortly after, we had received a request to go to the property after an application was rejected for a retaining wall, patio, and expanding the deck. At that time, there was some erosion from where they installed the pier to the back of the house, which you'll see in some photos. And we had offered some suggestions, but we had at that time rejected the retaining wall, patio, and expansion without an exception. In 2024, we found the violation of the 100-foot retaining wall, the 315 square foot patio, and the 210 square foot shed, which equaled 625 square feet of new disturbance. This was originally heard in March a year ago, 2025, and you guys had asked to table it so that we could worked with the applicant to see if the retaining wall was stabilized. So our building inspector did go out, and he did determine that the wall, along with the letter from the person who installed the wall, that it was structurally stable. So we did do that. However, after a year of going back and forth, the applicant decided not to pursue extending the wall to the other portion of the property, as you guys had suggested that he try to do. This is just the 2009 exception where it says no further encroachments. Overview of the property. You're coming down Carrollton Boulevard, come down Cedar Grove. This is more zoomed in here. You're coming off Cedar Grove, and you're taking a turn onto Lakeview Lane, and it's towards the end. The red line is going to be your flood zone. The green line is the potential RPA estimate on our mapping. And here zoomed in more, the blue square is going to be the shed, and then the red line is going to be the approximate retaining wall, and the orange is the patio. Here is the site plan showing that, and then along with the deck, the pier that was attached. This is pictures of the property. The first one is going to show the patio, how it's already started to settle into the ground. The second one is going to be the pier attachment. And after the pier was installed, they didn't do any erosion control measures on the property, so it's just disturbed soil. And then the third picture is going to be going down the bank with no vegetation. Just another angle of the pier. This is looking down the driveway at the patio, the retaining walls below. Again, just more pictures of the retaining wall and the stairs here. This is the retaining wall from the bottom looking up. It's approximately, it varies between like 4 feet to 3 feet to 2 feet as it goes down with a change of elevation. The proposed landscaping does meet the mitigation requirements for the property, and these are where they propose to plant them. So when granting an exception, the Planning Commission shall not recommend in favor of the applicant unless it meets these 5 criteria. The first one is the strict application of the ordinance would produce an undue hardship and would not confer upon the applicant any special privileges denied by this ordinance to other property owners. Surrounding properties have the same slope, same vegetation, and there's no need for a retaining wall on those other properties that surround this. The previous 2009 exception prohibited any new encroachment. We had previously in 2022 notified the applicant as well as the landscaper who had applied that we had not only denied it because of the previous exception, not allowing any encroachment without coming back in front of the Planning Commission and Board, but also that it may not be needed, that other avenues could have been taken. So this request does not constitute a hardship and would grant a special privilege to the applicants if these items were to remain. Number 2, the exception request is not based on conditions or circumstances that are self-created or self-imposed, nor does the request arise from conditions or circumstances either permitted or non-conforming that are related to adjacent parcels. Again, we had noted the limitations in 2022 of the previous exception. We had sent the rejection letters, and the applicant had failed to contact the county and apply for necessary exception and permits before building the retaining wall, shed, and patio. And so this is a self-created circumstance. Number 3, the exception request is the minimum necessary to afford relief. The shed and patio are accessory structures and are not necessary for the intent and not needed for the intended use of the residential, which is residential lot. No past requests for the lot and the surrounding areas were needed for erosion control projects or retaining walls. Shoreline projects, hardened shorelines in such a low action, wave action area. We haven't seen any out in that area besides this project. And we had offered other solutions in 2022 that he could have tried. And so the retaining wall, shed, and patio exceeded the minimum necessary to afford relief. Number 4, the exception request would be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare and is not of substantial detriment to water quality. The placement of the retaining wall, shed, and patio do not meet the purpose and intent of the ordinance, which is to safeguard water quality through the protection of existing buffers and establishment of buffers where they don't exist. And again, all these items are within the 50-foot landward portion of the RPA. Number 5 is the reasonable and appropriate conditions are imposed which prevent the exception request from causing degradation to water quality. We ask that if the exception is approved, that the following conditions be met. The applicant to require the mitigation as proposed, which would be the minimum requirements of the RPA mitigation buffer manual, and that the shed and patio be removed. And again, no further exceptions be granted. Some conclusions and strengths. It does meet the mitigation, as I had said. The replacement doesn't meet the purpose and intent of the ordinance for the retaining wall, the shed, or the patio. Again, all within the 50-foot landward portion of the RPA. I apologize. The applicant's request does not meet the 5 criteria for granting exceptions. All encroachments were added without prior permits and installed after receiving a previous denial. The encroachments violate the conditions of the 2009 exception approval, which prohibited any further encroachment. Accessory structures are not permitted in the RPA in any portion of the buffer. The wall and fill are not needed for stabilization. As we can see, the rest of the property he chose not to do as well. And looking at the map, the main septic tank drain field, if it fails, the reserve septic field is where the shed is placed. So that is also an issue in the future. If he ever needs to use his reserve septic, the shed is in that location. And again, all the other half is not protected at this time. So based on this, staff recommends denial of the exception request. Again, if the exception request is approved, staff recommends the following conditions. The mitigation be as proposed. The shed and patio be removed. If the shed is to remain, to move it off that reserve drain field or allocate another spot for that reserve drain field to be located on the property, and no further exceptions be granted. And the bottom note is just that we know that we can penalize for property owners, the Planning Commission Board can, for violating like a civil penalty for building without proper permits.
Okay, this is an issue that we had previously tabled, and at this time, if the applicant is present, the applicant can come and speak.
Thank you, sir. I know if I've read the bylaws correctly, I have 5 minutes. I'll promise to keep it under that. Look, we were here a year ago.
Sir,
with
can you
the planning-
please state your name?
Oh, I'm
and
sorry,
address?
Jeff Baker. My wife Christina is in the audience. We are the owners of said property. We left the meeting last March, and our understanding of your guidance was twofold: to have the county assess the structural integrity of our retaining wall, ensure it was built to VUBC standards, and 2, to have the county assess our ongoing erosion issues and provide recommendations to mitigate, which seemed reasonable and relatively simple, but it's unfortunately took us a year to get here. Additionally, what was not discussed at last year's meeting was the wetland water quality impact statement, impact assessment and wetland study that we had conducted by Stokes Environmental, and this was a company recommended by the county. And what the study showed is that actually our disturbance created 0 change in nitrogen to the water and actually improved phosphorus filtration. I just think that should have been addressed. In the study, at our request, we proposed to double the amount of canopy trees, understory trees, and 6 shrubs within RPA, twice what the county had recommended. An initial notice of violation dated 2/16/24. A plan that, according to Stokes Environmental, will increase nitrogen and phosphorus filtration. During the last year, I feel we've acted in good faith, and I have here 43 pages of email chains back and forth with the county. And to be honest, it wasn't until Miss Amy Ring, and I haven't met her, got personally involved in December, that we're even here today. I requested to come back multiple times since the last commission meeting. Each time I was denied that request. All right. We were referred to the dock builders and VUBC on multiple times, and I'll get back to the wall extension here briefly, but just some background, right? Going back to March 30th, I requested when the county wanted to make their site visit. And the email I got back from Shawnee was asked if I wanted inspectors to look at the wall with the contractor. So it took a few weeks of email correspondence to finally establish communication with Mark Drumheller, which was done on May 20th. I dug up from behind the wall to expose the 6x6 tie-ins to show that it met the requirements of Virginia's Uniform Building Code. But unfortunately, my travel schedule for work at that time and Mark's didn't align until early July. On June 23rd, we received a second notice violation. This referenced a concrete pad that does not exist, a driveway extension that does not exist, and it stated we had not conducted water quality impact assessment, which, as stated, had been done, and I submitted that to the county on 5/22/2024. I forwarded the letter back to Shawnee stating I was perplexed that we'd been in constant communication with the county and I had been ready for the inspection, but the email went without reply. On July 10th, I met with Mark at our home for about 30 minutes. He agreed that the wall, at that time, that the wall was built to standards. And then we spent the rest of the majority of the time discussing the erosion issues that continue to be on the right side of our home. His recommendation was that we extend the wall to meet the large cypress tree next to the shed. That we install drainage as we had done for the current wall, backfilling with soil, planting English ivy, which I found out is Virginia invasive, or wild ginger, as we had attempted multiple times to plant grass in that back area to slow the erosion, all without fail. And what he told us was our erosion issue can never fully be mitigated, only slowed. And now it's going to be something we deal with for as long as we live in this home. We took multiple pictures. We walked and showed the divots or the gullies that continue to erode, and I showed them where we've lost. Since we moved in there in 2018, we've lost 18 inches of soil on average from about midway point of our home to the back. Additionally, now in the back of our home, it's down to the footers, and I showed them that just a couple weeks ago. Again, I asked July 21st, asked to be put back on the schedule. Was told I needed to have plans drawn up and submitted before being put on the agenda. And I was to submit a request for deferral of the meeting to have a contractor draw up the plans. So I did that. It took a couple months. I had 2 contractors come out, give us an estimate, and provide drawings on the extension of the wall. Again, based on the county's recommendation. The only question I got back on, that was on September 30th. On October 10th, I was asked if fill would be needed. I responded that approximately 4 cubic yards would be needed. On the 27th, Shawnee stated that that would be enough for building code being below the height requirement, but the planning commission would want engineered plans. However, I was referred to Virginia Uniform Building Code by both contractors and our dock builder, Mr. Bob Livingood, who's probably been here a bunch of times, which I downloaded and we read. A wall below 36 inches, which would be the extension, did not require engineering stamp plans. So at this point, I was going in circles.
Speaker's time has expired, Chairman.
Mandy, this is not a public hearing. Can we,
So you had the discretion to extend it even if it
Yes.
was a public hearing?
I'm getting close to the end. November 6th, I emailed Mark for clarification. I didn't get a reply. I emailed again on December 11th without reply. For some reason, he had been great, but he stopped communicating with me. December 11th, he did submit stamp plans or a violation could resume. December 15th, I asked to be back on the agenda. And there was a back and forth over the next few days about what stamp plans were. Finally, I stated that I disputed the perspective of the county with respect to the wall extension. I intended to speak at the January 27th Planning Commission meeting, whether on the agenda or not. And that was forwarded to Ms. Ring. She finally replied to me and got personally involved, which we're appreciative of. She agreed that the wall under 36 inches would not require engineering plans, but referenced the current wall, which I replied we had market reviewed, and I believe to have met the intent of both the Planning Commission and the letter that said I was to meet with the building official, confirm the integrity of the wall, and work on plans to complete the wall. I thought we'd met this. And I discussed. Then on January 22nd, she asked Mark to confirm the plans I submitted were adequate, and whether he could approve them. So they returned to our home on February 20th. Again, there was a bunch of emails in there, many of them went without reply, but The email chain asked Mark and Shawnee once again to inspect the existing wall. They came to my house on the 28th. We spent about 20 minutes looking at the wall, discussing the erosion issue, took pictures. I agreed with them reluctantly and with hesitation on not applying for the extension, only because I've been dealing with this a year and it felt like the easier way out. So I agreed. What I asked the county, I said we would have a landscaper come in and put in the ground cover. And I asked the county to come back within a year and assess if that cover was working to reduce or at least slow the erosion behind and on the side of our home. So again, I'm just asking to leave the improvements we made in place. I'll attempt to erosion control with the ground cover, and we'll have all the shrubs that we offered to do last spring and trees put in within the RPA to further mitigate both phosphorus and nitrogen to the water, which, if you read the report, has already been an improvement. I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Baker. All right, commissioners. I guess, Shawnee or Ms. Ring, can one of you come up? Because I think we kind of lost, to be honest with you. Well, I'll put it to me. Trying to figure out what is the actual resolve in this right here.
So I think there was some confusion when we were asking for engineered plans. So when we left here, any wall over 36 inches needs engineered plans. So when we were asking for them, we were asking for the original wall that was in place, not the extension. So when we went back, we were trying to get that extension. He had the plans drawn for the extension, but after our meeting on the 20th, he wrote back a couple days later when I asked him that he didn't want to move forward with that extension. So he just is moving forward with what was in place. So we did not go any further on the erosion that was asked for when we delayed or tabled this a year ago.
So is the extension really needed?
I would assume it would help with the erosion if that's an ongoing issue. It would be short, so because he was only proposing about a foot or two with the elevation on that side of the property because it's higher, it wouldn't require engineered plans. But the property is eroding. Where it is now, the wall that's there, it's still eroding. So it may slow it. But as far as stopping, I don't see that.
So if y'all recall back at your meeting last March, y'all discussed that, rather than try to save him some time by not having him come back for a second extension of the wall, that he should have a qualified individual professional look at it and determine how it should all be integrated for the whole thing, not just phase 1 and phase 2. So that we were under the impression that he was going to come back with a plan for the whole wall, the extension plus the original wall. There was also some confusion. Apparently, Mark did go out, unbeknownst to me, and look at the existing wall, and they had a conversation about, what should happen out there. And it took me getting involved in December to actually pin Mark down as to what required engineered plans and what didn't. So anything under 5 feet does not require engineered plans. Anything over does. So, 3 feet, not 5 feet. So he couldn't really remember how tall the wall was. He didn't have notes, so we sent him back out with Shawnee so that everybody was on the same level discussing. And at that time, Mr. Baker decided he's going out of the country, I think, for a couple of years, and he didn't want to get involved in another project while he was out of the country. That's how it was explained to me. So they decided at that point not to extend the wall and just keep the original wall, and Mark signed off on. He went out with his measuring tape, measured it, indeed met the under 3 feet rule, so he did not have to submit building plans for that. And he looked at the structure, the foundation, what was behind it and everything, and he signed off on it. So I have that in writing.
Okay.
So I think, Mr. Chairman, that it seems like when we talked about this last March, there were some extenuating circumstances. Mr. Baker had this wall built. He was deployed at the time. There was a lot going on, but the wall pretty much worked, and it sounds like they've been inspected by the county. They've met the building code. It's my opinion we should approve the exception.
I agree.
I'm prepared to make a motion that regarding the exception, we send it to the Board of Supervisors for recommended approval with the following additions, that the mitigation landscape that's being proposed to meet the WQA recommendations is met, that an alternate site for the shed be identified, and which could be allowed to be within the 50-foot landward side of the RPA, but not within the 50-foot water side of the RPA, in the event that it has to be accessed for the auxiliary field, and that no further exceptions be granted without subsequently coming back.
Second.
All right,
Can I, just one question, just a clarification. So the patio is not, no requirements on the patio?
I did not include the patio.
Okay.
okay.
But you are requiring him to move the shed.
No, identify a spot in the event that it needs to be moved to access the drain field, the auxiliary drain field
Okay,
where it is.
okay.
But the specification was 50 foot on the landward side, not the water side. So it's already pre-approved, and he doesn't need to go back specifically for that in the event that occurs.
We good? Roll call, please.
Brian Carroll,
Yes.
James Ford,
Yes.
Jennifer Boykin,
Yes.
Rainier Gibbs,
Yes.
Matthew Smith,
Yes.
Brian Shotwell,
Yes.
George Rawls.
Yes.
Keith Johnson,
Yes.
Thomas DeStefano,
Yes.
Bobby Bowser.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go to the Board of Supervisors. Mandy, what is that date?
Hold on just a second, that's the third Thursday next month.
Maybe Mr.
Sorry.
Baker would know.
Not the 24th,
Okay?
or is it the third? Hold on, that's the third Thursday, isn't it? 16th, yes, thank you.
All right.
April 16th.
Let's go to the Board of Supervisors for their meeting, the 16th of April, without approval. Thank you. All right, can we return back to original agenda, the public hearing?
Application CSUP 25-5 of Jonathan Yates, applicant, and Martin Holmes, property owner, for a conditional use permit to construct a 197-foot tall monopole style wireless communications tower at 15562 Scotts Factory Road on tax map number 3101003 in the Rural Agricultural Conservation Zoning District, as well as for a withdrawal of 10,000 square feet from the Courthouse Agricultural and Forestry District.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Cordell As Benson. I'm a planner for community development. As Amanda stated, the public hearing item before you today is conditional use permit 25-5 for a communication tower on Scotts Factory. The identification number for the property is 31-01-003. It's in Election District 3. The current zoning is rural agricultural conservation. And the purpose is to receive a conditional use permit to construct the communication tower and to withdraw 10,000 square feet from the Courthouse Agricultural and Forestry District. The property was originally created in 1948 and was sold in 1978 to the current owner, Mr. Holmes, and has been used pretty much exclusively for agricultural and silvicultural purposes. The project is proposed on 10,000 square feet of the larger 125-acre property, and the 10,000 square foot area designated for the tower site was approved by the, or advised by the advisory committee of the Agricultural and Forestry District to be removed from that district. Here's a site map for the location. You can see that the property has got a lot of farmland on it. There is a utility easement going through the middle of it. The home site is here. The tower site would be up here where the mouse is. Road would come into this wooded area here, and the tower would be roughly about that location. This is a future land use map with environmental conservation areas and RAC noted on it. There's no other land use areas really seen on the map. And then the zoning map, where it's primarily rural agricultural conservation,
but you can see some RR areas or rural residential, some GC, and some NC areas nearby. This is a picture of the property looking north from the field into the tree area. So the road would be back here going into these woods, and then the location would be over here. And this is a picture looking more to the west into those woods where the tower would be located. This was a fluorescent pole that was set up by the applicant to denote where the tower would go in the wooded area. And then these are some more pictures of the proposed 10,000 square foot area that would be turned into the site where the tower would be placed. The description of the tower essentially is that it's the 197-foot monopole communication tower that would be used to help Verizon customers who live in the service area to help boost coverage between Smithfield and this site here. There's a gap between the towers that they currently have located, and that would help to fill that area. A brief description of the land, as noted when we were looking at the location, that it's roughly 62 acres of agricultural land, 30 acres of woodlands, 16.5 acres of pasture land. Another 15.4 acres are in that utility easement that we saw with the power lines, and another 15.4 acres, or that's for the utility easement, but then they also have a home location, which is about an acre. One other thing to note about the property is that it is located near a historical site. There is a historical site noted across the road from where this property is. The comprehensive plan review of the property shows rural agricultural conservation, as we saw. The main uses for rural agricultural conservation would be agricultural, horticultural, forest lands, low-density residential areas, and it also allows for communication towers when appropriately sited with a conditional use permit, which is why we're here today. The proposed use, therefore, is also consistent with the future recommended land use designation. There's two areas of the ordinance that I'll give a quick review on. The first is with regards to the communication tower conditional use permits, specifically designated around communication towers, and then just conditional use permits in general. So this area is in reference to section 5-5007.d of the zoning ordinance, which outlines certain requirements for an application for a conditional use permit with a communication tower. And those would include things like setbacks, visual impacts, FAA standards, making sure that they commit to a yearly report on the tower, and also note that if there is any if the tower gets decommissioned, what that would look like in removing it from the property. So in their application, they met all of the basic standards for that application. And then a specific thing to note in that section, specifically subsection D, it notes things to consider when granting conditional use permits for a new tower, which would include the height of the tower, the proximity of the tower to different residential structures, the design of the tower, and the availability of suitable existing towers and other structures that might have been used as different either towers or sites. The conditional use permit section of the zoning ordinance, specifically section 1-1017, goes in and looks at the reviews of conditional use application that the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors must consider before granting conditional use permit. These would include things like, will it endanger the public health, public safety, and general welfare? Does it have adequate utilities for the property? Does it contradict the goals of the comp plan, and so forth? I outlined those a little bit more in detail in my staff report. The board and Planning Commission can also, Planning Commission can recommend and the board can approve conditions or limitations on approval of on conditions, such as like the proposed hours of operation of a site, the effects of odors, dust, gas, smoke, fumes, vibrations, glares, noise, and other uses on the surrounding areas, the environmental impacts, or even the preservation of cultural and historical resources or landmarks. So just as a couple of examples of things that can be conditioned or limited. We did submit this to multiple agencies for review. The Isle of Wight County Museum stated that the site should be investigated with a cultural resource survey due to its proximity to the historical location. The Virginia Department of Transportation offered advice moving forward if the project does move forward, that they would need a private entrance permit that they would any utilities installed within the public right-of-way would need to be owned and maintained by a public utilities company and other advice of that sort. The engineering, fire rescue, and public utilities also were given a copy, but stated that they have no comment at this time. So staff identified 5 strengths and 1 potential weakness with the application. The first strength is that the application provides the needed services for underserved and unserved residents in the rural areas of the county. The project area is also small, only 10,000 square feet of the 125-acre site. The nearest home is 900 feet away from the proposed site. The tower is also 495 feet from the road, and that the use permitted is permitted in the current zoning and future land use for the site. The one weakness that we identified was that there is a potential for archaeological resources on the site. And so just wanted to reiterate that the Agricultural and Forest District Advisory Committee did recommend withdrawal of the 10,000 square foot site from the Courthouse Agricultural and Forestry District back on March 4th. And staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with the following conditions: that the applicant must submit a Phase 1 cultural resource survey before submitting a site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Cordell. At this time, we open the public hearing for this application. If the applicant is present or the owner, they can come up to speak at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jonathan Yates, and also I have my good friend Ryan Foltz, my boss at Arcola Tower. I hope he's my friend.
Can you give us an address also, Mr. Yates?
105 Broad Street, Charleston, South Carolina. First and foremost, this has been a lengthy process, made very positive. I have to thank Amy. I have to thank Cordell. We bothered everybody. We bothered Cordell, we bothered Amy, we bothered Trent, but they got us here tonight. And I think it's a credit to Isle of Wight County, that staff. All in all, I think I asked 101 stupid questions, and no one ever laughed at me throughout the whole process. I also have to thank George and Pat Martin. They're here with us tonight. A little background on the property. His daddy bought it, as you saw, in the late 40s. His daddy farmed it. He farmed it for corn, peanuts, soybean. George has lived on that property all but 5 years of his life, and he has a birthday. He turned 72 on Saturday, so he knows the property. Presently, and Cordell did a beautiful job laying it out, but presently his daddy farmed it, presently farmed by Sean Darden, and I think Sean's father farmed it before that, for almost the same thing, except I don't think he does the peanuts. He switched cotton for the peanuts. So the importance of this property, Verizon has a need, and that's clear. They have a goal to improve coverage really throughout the Commonwealth, but looking for rural areas where it needs help. And it's time. It's time. If you walk downtown Richmond, if you're in Henrico County or in Fairfax County, your phone works everywhere. It's about time it should work everywhere in Isle of Wight, that you don't have to go out into your yard to use the phone. So they sent us on a mission to find the property to cover this deficit here in Isle of Wight County. I think we found a great piece of property. You got 125 acres. It's exactly where Verizon needs to be. You have his house there, Miss Pat's house also, George and Pat's house up on the street. You have the farming going on that his father did, now done by the Dardens, and we were able to go back and sort of get this in the tree cover. Important for this facility is what we call the monopole design. Monopole, just to put it in perspective, it's no different than the pylon you have in front of a Hardee's or a Walmart, except we have a lot thicker steel and go a little bit taller. In this case, we're going 197 feet. That Verizon would have liked a little more, but there's a reason to the 197. We've had this facility both reviewed and approved by the FAA, and they made 2 important findings. First, a determination of no hazard air navigation, and then no illumination. Folks don't like the lights at night. They made that finding because we are actually located 5.4 nautical miles from Aberdeen Field, and we're about 6 nautical miles from Garner Airport. So we got that approval. We then, Commonwealth of Virginia, their State Historic Preservation Office, reviewed this facility, and they approved it as having no adverse effect on historic resources. That approval came in November 20th, 2025. And you're gonna laugh at me, but I'm gonna read a list to you. This facility was also reviewed by the Bad River Band of the Lake Superior Tribe of Chippewa Indians. It was reviewed by the Chickahominy Indian Tribe, Cultural Heritage Partners, the Delaware Nation, the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, the Nansemond Indian Tribe, the Pamunkey Indian Tribe, the Ponco Tribe of Indians of Oklahoma, Prairie Island Indian Community, and the Upper Mantatoni. Any Indian tribe or Native American organization, if their ancestors that have lived or migrated through that part of Isle of Wight County, they get a say into it also. So a lot of work coming in today, a lot of it made easy by your incredible staff, but we're here for any and all questions, the importance of this facility, and to talk about, Ryan is one of the best. It takes him about 60 days to put one of these in. A lot of that's in the foundation being set. Tower itself, it goes up in a day. If we get to put it up, after that, Verizon, they come out maybe 8 or 10 times a year. It'll be a technician in a light truck or utility vehicle, just tinker equipment. So we're not going to be increasing traffic on Scott's factory. We talked about the FAA, and that leads to the fact that we do not create any noise, odor, lights, vibration, fumes, or glare. What do? We provide voice, we provide broadband, and to me, one of the most important things, effective access to 911 first responders. You get in trouble out that way, you got a way to get a hold of them. You have in the county the IW alert notification. That's a great system. It works best with your phone. This is also a unique property in that, you saw the pictures, it has a major Dominion power line running through it. Whenever we can, not only did this work for Verizon from where they needed to be, but we like to talk about what we call putting utility with utility. You already have the major power line, which is supplying power. We're adding the installation that will supply wireless infrastructure. I have to apologize. People joke about me being a Southerner. It takes me 6 minutes to say my name. It took me longer tonight, so I apologize. I'm here for any and all questions. My boss, Mr. Foltz, is here. And any specific questions about the property and the history of the property, George and Pat are here with us as well. Thank y'all.
Are you an attorney, Mr. Yates?
Yes, sir.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone present like to come to speak for or against this application? You can come forward at this time. All right, seeing none, we close the public hearing. Commissioners.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. What's the ingress and egress going to be?
You're asking me?
May I approach?
Yes, sir. Just kind of hold it up. There you go.
Okay. I only ask because, and I'm certainly in favor of this, but after looking at the satellite array that we approved on Route 10, it occurred to me that they put in infrastructure into that project across the field, which ultimately took that land out of production. When these applications come before us, we're only granting an application for the 10,000 square foot of site construction where the tower is. It seems to me the entire project needs to be in the application. The access road, all the footage, not just the 10,000 feet of square foot project.
Okay. Anyone else? Verizon is saying, can you hear me now? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application.
Second.
Is your motion approval with staff's recommendation also?
Yes.
Okay. You good with that, Mr.?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Roll call, please.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
James Ford.
Yes.
Jennifer Boykin.
Yes.
Rainier Gibbs.
Yes.
Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Brian Shotwell.
Yes.
George Rawls.
Yes.
Keith Johnson.
Yes.
Thomas DeStefano.
Yes.
Bobby Bowser.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. And this also will go to the board on April the 16th.
16th.
Thank you. Okay, can we move now to the next application?
Application REZN 2412 of ST&T Ventures LLC, applicant for a zoning map amendment for approximately 17.5 acres on tax map number 3201009, located on Ben's Church Boulevard, to change zoning district from rural agricultural conservation to conditional general commercial in order to permit the development of 6 commercial parcels.
Good evening,
All right,
Commission members. My name is Amy Ring. For those of you in the audience that don't know who I am, I'm the county's Community Development Director. The second item tonight before you is a rezoning request to conditional general commercial for a project known as Bridger's Quarter. The project is to be located on a portion of tax map number 3201009. This property is split in two by Route 10. On the other side, on the eastern side of Route 10, the property was recently rezoned for a project known as Sweetgrass. This is 17 acres on the other side of the road, on the western side of Route 10. It is located approximately 1,000 feet south of the intersection of Ben's Church Boulevard and Turner Drive. It is zoned rural agriculture conservation. It's in the 3rd election district. And the request is for a zoning map change, also known as a rezoning, from the RAC zoning district to conditional general commercial to permit the development of 6 commercial parcels. This is a location map. The site is outlined in red, showing the location of the property about 1,000 feet south of this intersection here. This is Turner Drive here, and this is Ben's Church Boulevard bounding the site on the east. It is also adjacent to Red Oaks Mobile Home Park there directly to the south, as well as the Oaks Veterinary Clinic right there adjacent to it on Route 10. Smithfield High School is located directly to the west, and some remaining rural agriculture conservation land is on the north side. This is the existing zoning district map. The property, as shown in the clear, is rural agriculture conservation. Property to the south is zoned PDMH, which is our planned mobile home district, as well as additional property, rural agriculture conservation. And this property was recently rezoned to PDMX, which is our mixed-use zoning district. It looks like our GIS map has not caught up yet. And everything else around it is RAC as well. This is the recommended future land use map from the 2020 comprehensive plan. As you see, the property is shown in red. That is our designation for business and employment. It is adjacent to property, which is Smithfield High School, which is designated rural agriculture conservation. It's the site of an existing school. It is also adjacent to property for recommended as future suburban residential, planned mixed use, and it is adjacent to the town of Smithfield as well. So the site itself is about 17.5 acres. It is a portion of the former Yeoman Tract or Yeoman Farm. It's currently vacant. It historically has been used in agriculture and is generally flat with sandy permeable soils. This is a picture from Route 10 looking to the west and north. It's basically a flat vacant field. You can kind of see the school there in the background along the rear property line. And this is a view of the property taken from Turner Drive. Again, you kind of see the yellow school bus there in the background where the school abuts the property to the rear. And then across the field, adjacent to it on the other side, is Red Oaks Mobile Home Park. Again, flat, vacant, agricultural. So the concept plan for this property, which I'll show in a minute, shows 6 commercial parcels with approximately 175,000 square feet of commercial space. It'll have 2 entrances, one on Route 10 and a second entrance on Turner Drive. The entrance on Route 10 they will share with the future Sweetgrass development, which is slated for a future traffic signal. The preliminary mix of tenants shown on the concept plan include a self-storage facility, a medical office building, retail, and fast food restaurants. However, the proffered conditions for the project do not include any kind of restrictions on the permitted uses, so any of the permitted uses that are normally allowed in general commercial would also be allowed here. The applicant proposes to develop a climate-controlled self-storage building as Phase 1 of the project, with the remainder included in Phase 2 to be developed over time as market conditions allow. The other proffered conditions include conformance with the concept plan and proffered design criteria, a stub out to both Smithfield High School and Oaks Veterinary Clinic to provide future signal access if desired, a cash contribution of $200,000 towards the Turner Drive Improvement Project, construction of a longer northbound turn lane on Route 10 into the project site, and a Phase 1 archaeological study with further studies as needed. This is a concept plan. It was also included as part of your staff report. This is Route 10 along the top of the plan and Turner Drive, showing the future roundabout here on the left-hand side of your plan. The main entrance would be here at the top of the plan, and the 3 commercial art parcels are shown along the frontage, with an interior drive shown as Road A here coming through the interior of the site. This parcel here is the climate-controlled indoor self-storage unit, a retail shopping center across the street from it, and then a medical office building proposed for the rear. There would be another interior road serving the site that would run along the rear property line and provide future access to Turner Drive across this parcel in the north west corner of the intersection with Turner Drive. This is a conceptual elevation drawing showing what the medical office could look like. Again, this would meet, for the most part, our Newport Development Service overlay architectural criteria for this building, so it would be consistent with that. This is a conceptual elevation of the self-storage building, again, showing architectural criteria that would be consistent with the NDSO overlay district. Keep in mind, I have not performed a site plan analysis of this. This is just conceptual drawing, so everything here is subject to final site plan review and approval in accordance with our current regulations at the time. And this is a conceptual elevation showing a retail building. So when staff receives applications, one of the first things we do is to look at potential impacts to public facilities and services. We look at such things as transportation and road impacts. The applicant did submit a traffic impact analysis, which we then sent out to VDOT and our transportation department for their review and comment. The TIA disclosed that without the Wawa, which has since withdrawn its application, the average daily vehicle count is about 7,500 new trips per day, with approximately 474 occurring in the morning peak and 359 occurring in the PM peak hour. In order to accommodate the increase in traffic, the applicant did proffer some road improvements, which included to lengthen the westbound left turn lane into the proposed project site from Route 10, construct a westbound right turn lane, lengthen the westbound left turn lane into the proposed, so if you're coming into Smithfield, you would get in that left-hand turn lane and you would take a left into the site. They would also construct a right-hand turn lane coming from the other direction into the site. Within 30 months of the issuance of construction drawing approval, a VDOT land disturbing permit, they would construct Road A, which is that main drive into the property from Route 10 that shares a light with Sweetgrass. And they would also provide a stub-out access if the Oaks Veterinary Clinic wanted it to provide access to the light, as well as Smithfield High School. And in another 30 months, they would also construct Road B, which would provide that link out to Turner Drive. And they would submit both of those roads to VDOT for state acceptance into their maintenance system. As each individual commercial parcel is developed, a TIA will be prepared to determine the impacts of the commercial site and to recommend improvements to mitigate any kind of additional road impacts. And these improvements shall be incorporated into each commercial site plan and shall be constructed prior to each CO. In addition to that, they are going to pay the county $200,000 towards the Turner Drive Improvement Project, which is currently in design. So we have been granted approval through VDOT, funding has been allocated, and we are currently designing that project now with, I think the anticipated construction date is 2027. So we looked at schools and parks and recreation and utility impacts, and with no residents proposed with this project, there are no projected impacts to schools or parks and rec because there are no additional residents that are going to be generated. The proposed development would provide access to the future traffic light on Route 10, which would help alleviate traffic congestion on Turner Drive by future school expansions if they so desired. And also, even though they're not generating any residents, they are still extending the multi-purpose trail along Route 10. And the site will also be served by public water and sewer, which will be reviewed at the time of site plan approval. The Sheriff's Office stated that they have sufficient capacity to handle the increased service demand generated by the development. However, they noted the continued growth in the area would continue to increase calls for service and that a future analysis should be conducted. And then based on the number of calls for non-residential development per vehicle trip, the fire rescue department could anticipate an increase of 329 calls per year, or approximately 1 call per day. And they stated that their current staffing levels were adequate to handle this increased demand. We also looked at environmental and historical resource impacts. It's a flat site. It has no environmental features to speak of. It doesn't have any wetland areas. It doesn't have any endangered species. A Phase 1 cultural resources assessment found that there were no standing structures or any indication that there were historical resources on site, and the County Historic Resources staff had no further concerns after reviewing the report. Both reports did note that there were sandy soils which tend to be permeable, and that care should be taken with any future development to avoid any kind of groundwater contamination, leaching from above through these permeable soils. The fiscal impact analysis showed that the project would generate approximately $230,000 in new tax revenue annually, once fully built out, and projected a total of new 91 full-time and part-time jobs. Commissioner of Revenue reviewed the report, and they felt they had no concerns with the real estate tax projections, and therefore we had no further comments on that. The future recommended land use designation for this is business and employment, as I showed you on the map. Business employment land uses consist of office space, commercial uses, both standalone and in shopping centers, and some light industrial uses. They are best located on major transportation routes and at major intersections with public water and sewer available. Expected development in business and employment might include medical offices, office parks, supporting retail services, community shopping centers, light manufacturing, and similar type of uses. The proposed project, in staff's opinion, is in general conformance with the future recommended land use designation. We also looked at the ability of the proposed concept and project to be able to meet current existing zoning ordinance regulations. GC zoning is intended to provide the full range of commercial activities and establishments which are not primarily related to residential development and which require accessibility from higher order roadways. And just to note again, the proffered conditions do not note any kind of prohibitions against any of the permitted uses in the GC district. We found that the proposed square feet of commercial space is well within the maximum floor area ratio. The concept plan appears to be able to meet minimum setback requirements, height requirements, and lot area. And just a note that the property also lies in the Newport Development Service overlay as well as the Chesapeake Bay overlay district. And so any new development that comes in is going to have to meet those enhanced design criteria. Like if there were wetlands on site, they might be required to maintain that 100-foot buffer. Or with the NDSO, of course, you have the architectural design requirements for materials and colors and setbacks. So after doing this analysis, staff comes up with a list of findings to include strengths and weaknesses to help inform our recommendation. So strengths, we found that the proposed project is generally consistent with the future recommended land use designation. There is sufficient utility, public safety, emergency medical service capacity to serve the additional service demands. The proffered conditions include road improvements to address their traffic impacts. The proposed site does not include any environmentally sensitive features. The project includes non-residential commercial development, which will generate employment opportunities and additional tax revenues, and that the project provides additional transportation access for adjacent property owners and extends the county's multi-purpose trail system. The weakness that staff found was that the project includes additional self-storage, which, based on other similar recently approved projects in the county and the town of Smithfield, could be considered a saturation and multiplicity of the use type. However, the applicant did submit a market analysis in support of the ability of the market to support this facility. So staff's recommendation is that, based on the findings from the analysis, staff recommends approval of the application with the proffered conditions. I'll be available following the public hearing should you have any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ring. We open the public hearing for this application. If the applicant is present, they can come forward at this time.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Amy, for your report. I'd like to say my name's Adam Turner. I live in 15206 Newtown Haven Lane, Carrollton. I believe, you know, as Amy kind of indicated, and I'd like to add that, you know, I think that the, you know, collaboration of the public and private partnership and development is one of the important components of, you know, successfully creating projects that serve their, you know, the public's interest as well as ours, and their help and, you know, work to bring this before you all is greatly appreciated. So, you know, with that said, you know, as Amy indicated in the staff report, that we are proposing to rezone 17.5 acres on Turner Drive and Ben's Church Boulevard from rural agricultural conservation to general commercial. This is in consistency with the comp plan, as she indicated. I think, you know, that could go a number of different ways, but given that she indicated that the project had a number of strengths and focused on one weakness, regarding the self-storage, that I'd maybe take some time to talk about that. So we've been working on this a little while and got a little caught up in the traffic, but we got through it. Anyway, when we started the project, that was one of the core, we had identified a need for storage to begin with, that before a number of the other projects were approved, the one on Battery Park, the one at the intersection of 17 and 258, forget the name, and then the one on 17 towards Suffolk, we had identified a need for it, and as time has progressed, the study that we had originally performed ended up being actually the same company that some of the other businesses that have been established actually implemented. So there's continuity there from that standpoint. But as time progressed and some of these other projects got approved while we were still working through things, we had the study updated to reflect all the projects that have been approved in this area that is within the county that services the, you know, the layers that would be applicable to that storage. And we have found that based off those findings that there is still a need for that use. You know, with all the adjacent parcels that have been approved, Sweetgrass, Henry Layden's parcel there around the pond, just on behind the shopping center, and whatever else maybe comes up in the near future, this parcel is essentially located to serve all those upcoming residential areas. So with that in mind, we've also spoken with some of the local managers of these facilities, and they've indicated that during some of these new facility installations that their lease-up rates are exceeding their expectations, which is an indication that there is further capacity beyond the established approvals. So anyway, with that in mind, you know, I'd like to mention, I think one of the strengths, and as like I mentioned, we've had quite a bit of time to spend on transportation. One of the things I think that really benefits this project, is this ability to help add eastbound capacity from Turner Drive through the roundabout, and to have stacking there that won't, during peak hours of school time, create a backup there at that intersection. So I think, you know, with that coupled with the ability to tie into the school there, should it be deemed, you know, in this county's interest, that would be a resource that would be available. This project is going to be able to create tax revenue. It will create road networks, walking trails. It will create employment opportunities, and it'll create goods and services for the community to accompany these approved housing projects. And with this in mind, I'd like to ask all of you to consider approval for this project, and any remaining time that I have for you to ask any questions you might have about this project to support it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone present like to speak for or against this application, you can come forward at this time. All right, seeing none, we close the public hearing for this. Any questions, commissioners? I got one, Ms. Ring, on the traffic analysis, was those numbers right? Because it
I had
said,
to say something about that. So the way that gets calculated is that it's not to say that it's new traffic numbers that are generated coming to the corridors in the county. What it means to say is that those internal roads, given that they'll help create a new network of traffic, might see that quantity of trips through the project. But it's not to suggest that that's the quantity of new traffic that'll be coming to the corridor.
okay, what I was looking at was it said 7,479 daily trips. But then you only had 474 in the morning and 359 in the evening.
That's for
So what is
peak,
that?
peak hours only.
Peak hours only?
Right.
Okay.
Right, yeah. And that's a new trips to the site. So that's not necessarily new residents, or it could be attracting residents from elsewhere, but it's new trips through that area. It's the 7459.
Wow. See, that making a lot of money.
Question related to the traffic. So even in, I guess, the July 2025 letter with an update, it mentions the Wawa being, assuming that was going to be built. So that's changed, I think, at this point. Now we have a sheets being built across the road. So should that be looked at as far as traffic updates?
So
or-
the master TIA that was done for that whole area actually included future commercial area in the town of Smithfield for that site and made some assumptions. So it should have been included, you know, in theory, in the general background growth or in the general impact areas. Because the study looked at not only their side of the road with the Wawa, it looked at the promontory side with those commercial out parcels and included the sweetgrass across the street. And it also included future proposed commercial development on where the Sheets is going now.
Accounted for all the potential
Right.
developments.
And that was one of the reasons why we asked for a master TIA, is to just have one integrated study that would account for everything.
And so part of that is the roundabout. What's the status of the roundabout and construction of that?
So they are in design right now. Last time I talked to Jamie about it, which was about a month ago, they were like at 30%. And they were hoping to get to 60% soon, and they said they'd be happy to share those plans with the applicant when they were ready.
So would the construction of that be, I guess, in time to, also for this tie-in?
It would probably happen around the same time.
Around the same time, okay.
And so the extension lanes, will that be built when the storage unit is built, or is that going to be built when the rest of it?
So the first initial, and jump in if you want to,
Yeah, so I'll add part of the rationale there, and that kind of plays into it. I didn't really get into it because it's really a cumbersome topic that can unravel, but part of the rationale of the phase one there of the storage is that that is a really low traffic generation use. It's of all the applicable uses that are really even calculable in these calculations for traffic generation, it's by far the lowest generation in this area. And given the fact that all these improvements, as Amy indicated, that were developed as a part of our undertaking of the master plan, that there will be an interim period that happens where there's not going to be all the whole system of improvements that's in place. And so part of the way that our project can move forward is to have this kind of phased approach where, based off of VDOT's feedback, that with the storage alone, we'll be able to start building that internal infrastructure and use the existing median break and have a right in, right out project with a left in break there that would be extended prior to the, we'll extend that and have it to where people can come in for that phase one. And then ultimately what'll end up happening, realistically, once Sweetgrass moves forward with their signal installation, the roundabout is, planned and construction and everything and move forward, then that full transportation route will be completed, and that's what really unlocks the whole corridor there for being able to move forward with construction. So.
And so this could be, so the rest of the improvements could be 3 or 4 years out, and the rest of the construction? Because I spoke with, I don't know if I spoke with you, but
I spoke with Jonathan.
Okay, Jonathan, yeah.
My partner in all this. But, so, part of it there is that that I don't know if you noticed on it, but part of the timeline of the way that we wrote the proffers there, one of the comments that we received back from VDOT in the process of this is that, given the circumstances here, there's some constrictions on what criteria have to be met in order for the roads to be entered into the state road network. And one of the criteria might be a certain number of commercial parcels, but one of the criteria is connectivity, to have a continual connectivity of road network from Turner Drive through the project out to Ben's Church. And until part of the rationale, and that's kind of what I think Amy was alluding at, is our rationale, the timing we committed there for the installation of our roads and submittal ultimately to the state road network would be based in an effort to be in close proximity to the completion of the roundabout, so that our roads would be included, get that in, have it to where we know exactly how that'll be aligned, so we don't have to do any rework or anything. We'll tie into the roundabout, which will complete that road network and move forward into the state road network.
And when does the $200,000 proffer come to the county?
So that would happen at what was kind of discussed from the inception of the idea being at time of advertisement. So like the point, and I don't know, you don't happen to have the schedule of the
advertising for it?
Well, so basically the answer to your question is, once all the design is done, once VDOT and county staff and everything have navigated the transportation design there that's actually going to get implemented, that will go out to bid, maybe missing a couple steps, but ultimately that'll basically go out to bid for a contractor to construct. And it's that would be what that meaning of time of advertisement would be, at the point when it goes out to bid, basically, and funds are needed to be able to actually move forward with paying and funding the project.
And I just have another question about the pump station. I didn't see that proffered. Is that something that the county has to?
Yeah, so one thing I failed to mention, it is not. One thing I failed to mention, I've Chris here, our civil engineer on the project with me. He can maybe talk a little more on that, but just to give a little, my dumbed down 2 cents of it, basically, is that that's been a topic of conversation that's sprawled out through the whole process of this transportation coordination and everything. But ultimately, what we're currently hoping to do, and we're in coordination with Sweetgrass to do, is that just spatially, the way it works out, we are on the high side of the road there, and everything's draining down to the creek. And what we have done, we've gotten, we've presented it roughly, and like Amy mentioned, that in order to really move and vet this forward, we'll have to play it out and get through this, make sure you guys want the project and everything. What will ultimately get vetted out is that we believe that we have, by all engineering indications, we have the ability to run a jack and board, gravity line across Route 10. We've physically identified the location of all the utilities out there, that we have space in the gravity fall to tie into Ryan Holmes' engineered system that's being moved forward, and that ultimately there would be sufficient capacity to reduce and minimize the quantity of pump stations that would ultimately get transitioned to the county and service this area. So the goal, if we can make it happen, which it seems like it can, is that we'll work with the adjacent development projects underway to have economies of scale there.
And if you can't make it happen,
We will,
are you going to proffer to?
in their support, we will, find a solution from there. I don't know if Amy maybe wants to jump in there.
Yeah, so being customers of public services, they will have to come up with a solution and pay for it. The county will not be responsible for that.
I just have one sideline question. Who comes up with these peak times?
So it's usually settled between VDOT and the traffic engineer, and so with this study, I believe the AM peak hour was settled between 7:15 and 8:15 AM, and peak hour was 4:15 PM to 5:15 PM.
Can you ever request to have a broader peak?
You can, at the very beginning in the scoping meeting, you can say, I think,
I'll add in there, we had 20 scoping meetings in the process of that transportation study that was done. And that ultimately, there was enough, so it's real complicated, but one of the layers of it that originally, when Wawa initially implemented their proposal, or their plan that got tabled, they had done an independent traffic study. That data ultimately was wrapped into the master study, but as a part of that study, given that a part of it ultimately might be routed through our project, some of the school trips might be routed through our project, we went back and actually got accurate peak hour counts during the school periods, because part of the concern along the way of this is that there was an insufficient capacity, that during the peak school hours, there was basically backing up on Turner Drive, and that was creating a queue time that with Wawa was going to create an unsafe circumstance where they wouldn't be able to have full movement. Kind of went from there, but to answer your question, in this particular case, given the scrutiny and complexity of what was actually applied to that study, there was actual current data taken with actual counts, visibly taken counts at those peak hours.
I think I'd like to see peak hours be from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then in the evening, like from 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Because this is like, to me, this is not real peak hours. But I know that that's not your issue.
Yeah, well, like I said, that was that's part of what I indicated, is that's a give and take that occurs between the public and private engineers, coming up with what they perceive to be the appropriate capacity to analyze this into a way that, is a functional design. So I'm not,
Thank you.
Adam, while you're there, does your property go all the way to Turner Drive?
It does not, so I don't know if you want to maybe pull the, are we able to?
So my further question is, what guarantees that connection across the other piece of property?
So we have a right-of-way established with the trustee, or with the landowner, the Yeoman Trust, who is the landowner both of our parcel and the adjacent parcel. That was submitted as a part of our comment package that we made, that basically our project, and that's committed as part of our proffer commitments, that part, ultimately we had initially, there was a bit of complexity that occurred as we were working through the negotiation on the transportation contributions, but because when we originally went through all this, the Wawa was supposed to be purchasing the corner parcel and the adjacent parcel. Well, that fell through. We had to get a little creative there, but part of what we've restructured with Henry Layden, the trustee, for the corner parcel there, is that we would be ultimately constructing the road from the edge of our parcel, which is at the color line, out to the roadway, ultimately for this idea that will create a public road network that actually serves to, inconsistent with the intentions of the master study that was performed. So the parcel line is the color, and we're going to build it all the way out because we have an easement, and that's what we proffered.
Sounds like really good with Henry.
No, it's written.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, he tried it that way, but
That's what I was thinking.
And, whatever way you do it. Okay.
Mr. Turner, could you please discuss the coordination with the schools for any additional accesses and explain that some?
Well, actually, I think that might be better for Amy.
So we have or staff in general has had meetings with school staff to talk about a potential connection here to the school site. School has not committed to actually physically making that connection yet, although they are in the design for their future classroom expansion. So we're hoping that they'll take this into account to provide relief to Turner Drive in the future. But that access is there if they want it.
Okay. All right, any other comments, questions?
I just have a comment. I mean, I like that we have this commercial project. I do wish, I don't like that we have more storage, and I wish there was a way for them to put the storage, self-storage building to the back of the property instead of towards the front.
Well, I mean, I feel like it is kind of in the back there. I mean,
I mean, down here in the back lower corner.
well, we actually did try to put it there. To be honest with you, we weren't able to come up with really an efficient design that was able, given the, expectation, ultimately, we have to try to make a functional deal for ourselves as well, and from an engineering standpoint and spatially, that was ultimately what we came up with that we were able to make work. We've moved it to it's on the back half of the project there. We've tried to move it as far back as we can. It just spatially there to be able to functionally or efficiently utilize the space. It made the most sense to place it on the parcel with the pond. So, and I guess part of what I would respond is that, we'll, in coordination with staff, do the best we can to, make a architectural proposal that'll be as, acceptable as possible, ultimately acceptable. So.
How many story will that storage?
It'll be 3 stories.
3 stories?
Yeah.
What about the medical, how many stories is that?
I'm sorry?
The medical building, how many stories?
2 stories. Yep.
Isn't there storage coming up on Battery Park Road now, too?
Yes.
A lot of storage. How many storage facilities do we have now in the county?
Apparently. No, we don't.
Right.
We have, well, you say we have like 9.
Off the top of your head, I'm sitting here counting them in my head.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't think it was going to work.
Exactly.
Right.
Empty units don't cover mortgages.
It's more risky for us than just about anyone. That's all. I mean, we've got all these active projects accounted for. We have the lease-up rates from the other active projects that are moving forward. We have, overlap in the market studies from different projects. We've done quite a bit of research to try to make sure that this is an intelligent decision. And that's why we're trying to proceed with it.
Yeah, but believe it or not, we were just discussing that. I mean, those things are packed. It's a market for them nowadays.
But what we said a few years ago, what was going to happen
It's happening.
along that corridor. It's happening.
Exploding.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
One more follow-on, Ms. Frank, is the person whoever would have cognizance over that connection to the school, aware that they had the next action? Has that action been defined?
They are still in discussions.
That's the school though, correct?
Yeah.
Not the applicant? Okay.
The applicant's providing the stub out regardless.
So which part though, Thomas?
I just want to ensure that there's no additional action with respect to this application to ensure that if the schools do act on that entrance, which I personally feel is necessary, that they have the ability to act on it.
Yeah, so we have it written in our proffered conditions that basically that access will be provided, that it will be stubbed as reflected in that. It's kind of not real clear on that, but if you look close, you can see where the lines kind of come out into a radius right up to the parcel line. We have proffered a commitment to do that. So.
Is there any time frame on when the school would have to act in order to?
No. I have no idea.
No, it's just at such time as development occurs. With Smithfield site being an existing site, I don't believe there's any kind of trigger for them. But, if with a public road being constructed, that they are required to provide stub outs to adjacent property for access, so.
I will add one more thing that maybe is relevant that's coming to mind there, that as a part of this process for the schools, that one of the considerations that was ultimately implemented into that master plan, with Sweetgrass's signalized intersection ultimately being proposed and will move forward, one of the concerns that the schools did have is that without the signal, that how would there be, if, okay, say our project moves forward, and ideally in coordination with, in conversation with them, it looks like it should work out to where it coincides, but without the signal, if the signalized access were not to be provided, there would require an alternative solution to be able to have a full access for the school traffic to utilize that to begin with. So there are some kind of considerations that are going to need to be taken as in part of the school's decision-making relative to, local development, namely Sweetgrass, as to being able to actually utilize that as an additional route.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I recommend approval of rezoning 2412 with the proper conditions.
I second that.
Roll call, please.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
James Ford.
Yes.
Jennifer Boykin.
Yes.
Raynard Gibbs.
Yes.
Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Brian Shotwell.
Yes.
George Rawls.
Yes.
Keith Johnson.
Yes.
Thomas DeStefano.
Yes.
Bobby Bowser.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. Thank you. This also will go to the boards on April 16th.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I say it here, so this paper, I can sit on paper.
All right. Is everybody good?
They know it's their action.
Just forward, you good?
I told you so. Talk about that.
Can we go to the next application, please?
Application REZN 25-3 of Etheridge Manor Corporation and Northampton Associates LLC, owners for a zoning map amendment for approximately 150 acres located on tax map numbers 330114, 1546, and 46B to change the zoning district from rural agricultural conservation to conditional plan development residential in order to permit the development of 141 single-family detached units and 176 multifamily units.
The last public hearing item for you tonight is a conditional rezoning request for a property with a project name of Gwaltney Farms. It is on 4 different properties, I should say 3 whole properties and 1 partial. It is partially on 330114, and then the entire parcels of 1546 and 46B. The property or the project site lies approximately 150 feet northeast of the intersection of Route 10 and Tan Road, also known as Route 620. The existing zoning is rural agriculture conservation. It's in District 3 election district. The zoning map change, also known as a rezoning, is for going from the RAC zoning district to conditional plan development residential. And the request is to be able to build 141 single-family detached homes and 176 multifamily rental apartments. So the property highlighted in green on your map are the properties that are subject of this application. This yellow highlighted area up in the left-hand corner of your screen is actually the piece of property on tax map number 3301014 that is part of the application. It's about 2.5 acres, and it's for the access road between the main entrance proposed for Turner Landing Way and Route 10 back to the main part of the development. This is the biggest piece, 3301046, and another acre here, 3301046. And this is the Tan Road down here and Route 10 to the left-hand side of your screen. As you can see, it's directly across the road from Ben's Grant Apartments, adjacent single-family homes, and agricultural properties. This is the zoning map. As you can see, most of the property in this area is zoned rural agriculture conservation. It's directly across the street from conditional plan development mixed use, which is the Ben's Grant Plan community. This is the recommended future land use map. It is recommended in the front along Route 10 for urban residential. The pieces that are planned for the access road only are business and employment. There are no proposed uses on these properties. And then suburban residential would be occurring on the cleared farmland in the rear. In the suburban residential area would be single-family homes. The whole project site's approximately 150 acres. As I mentioned, it's occurring on the property formerly known as the Gwaltney Farm. It is currently vacant except for a few older, several older farm buildings. It historically has been in agricultural use. The site slopes downward from Route 10 east back towards Brewers Creek. The soil types range from well-drained in the open field areas to poorly drained near the creeks and the wetland areas. This is a picture I took from Route 10 looking downslope from Route 10 down to the eastern boundary. You can see some of the older agricultural buildings in the background there. And this is a picture of the same property that I took from its access on Tan Road. As you can see, it's a wetland area. There is no, even though it has road frontage on Tan Road, there is no proposed access here. It will be retained as permanent open space. So again, the project request specifically is for conditional plan development residential for the development of 141 single-family homes and 176 multifamily homes. I was originally represented that these were rental apartments, but the applicant and I have had conversations with this last set of proffered conditions that I received on Thursday night, and they wish to retain the opportunity to do either condominium units or rental apartments. Both of these types of housing are considered multifamily under our ordinance, so they want to kind of, even though I say rental units throughout my staff report, they are asking that they be, or have the ability to do either condos, fee simple condos, or rental units. So the other proffered conditions include traffic improvements to include an extension of the existing left turn lane at Brewers Neck Boulevard from where you turn onto Benz Grant Boulevard to head towards Suffolk. There'll be 2 side entrances, one at the existing full access intersection with Turner Landing Way in front of the apartments, and a new right-in, right-out further south, as well as the construction of several turn lanes serving the development. The new proffers that we received that I sent to you later in an email include cash proffers to expand school capacity to serve the project, and the students that are to be generated by the development. They have proffered design criteria for both the multifamily and single-family residential uses. They've included the RPAs, flood hazard areas, and wetlands and permanent protected open space. They've included recreational amenities to include a dog park, multi-purpose recreational field, and a walking trail. And they've also proffered a Phase 1 archaeological study with future phases as needed prior to the submission of a preliminary plat. So this is the concept plan here. You can see Route 10 here, coming down with the main site entrance coming in here from Turner Landing Way. Actually, it's up here, sorry. This is Turner Landing Way up here. Again, this is just showing the proposed infrastructure on parcels 14 and 15. It's just the road coming in. And this road could be available for future development in the future. And it would provide an access road that would then go into the development to access the multifamily along the frontage in these urban residential areas. And then the right-in, right-out entrance here that would then extend to the rear of the property to be able to take advantage of these open farm fields back here for single-family detached residential units. All of the wetland areas, resource protection areas, as well as a lot of the non-tidal residential areas are slated for future open space preservation. There are a few wetland impacts for the roads, not in the RPA, but in the non-tidal areas, as well as some parking lot areas, and they would require state and federal wetland permits as would be required. This is a picture that was included with their multifamily design criteria for the multifamily units. And this is an example of one of the single-family models that were included as part of the single-family design criteria. This is another two-story model. Unfortunately, my PDF got cut off at the bottom, but, so this just kind of gives you an example. And apparently, the proposed developer for this site is currently constructing housing behind the new Chick-fil-A on Route 10 by the hospital. So they are proposing to use basically the same models here at this site. So the TIA analysis for this project showed the project could generate up to 2,500, 2,600 new vehicle trips per day. And it pointed out that it did exacerbate a left lane spillover at the intersection of Brewers Neck and Benz Grant Boulevard. And in order to mitigate these impacts and serve the development, they proffered to construct the following improvements. One was to extend the Brewers Neck left turn lane onto Benz Grant Boulevard by about 700 feet, and adding green time to the westbound left turn movement to be able to move more cars through that intersection without spilling out into the through lanes. They're also proposing to construct a right-in, right-out access south of Turner Landing Way with a northbound right turn lane, to construct a northern entrance with a western fourth leg to the existing intersection with Turner Landing Way, as well as to construct a northbound right turn lane, and to construct a roadway parallel to Benz Church Boulevard connecting the two access locations to provide direct access to the multifamily housing. We also took a look at the schools. They are expected to generate about 96 students total to be served by the schools in the northern area of the county. It's not been determined yet for the elementary school whether it would be Carrollton Elementary or Hardy. For grades K through 3, they would generate 29 students. For grades 4 through 6, which would be West Side, it would be 20 students. For grades 7 through 8, which would be Smithfield Middle, it would be 15 students. And for Smithfield High School, grades 9 through 12, it would be 31 students. The only northern area school currently over capacity is Smithfield High School, which recently added a $30 million project to the CIP to add 30 additional classrooms. The project itself would generate 31 additional seats, or the need for 31 additional seats at the high school. So based on the average of 24 seats per classroom, each new seat will cost the county approximately $41,667, which is basically $30 million divided by 720 seats. To mitigate their impact on school capacity, the applicant proffers $4,000 for each of 136 single-family units and each of the 176 multifamily units. Now, you might note that 136 is less than 141. They are taking credit for the 5 units they would be able to otherwise construct on the site with, by right. So they subtracted that from the additional units they're proposing. So we also took a look at the parks and recreation facilities and utility facilities, and the increase in projected population would be 737 new residents. These residents will continue to decrease the existing level of service for parks and recreation without the expansion of existing services and facilities. To help address this impact, the applicant proposed to include a walking trail, a park area which included a dog park and a graded multi-purpose field. The site will also be served by public water and sewer, and the review of utility lines and necessary structures will occur at site plan submittal if the rezoning request is approved. As I mentioned earlier with the last project, the developer and the applicant would be responsible for serving their site and building public water and sewer facilities that they would then have to dedicate to the county, and that's required by ordinance as well. We also took a look at public safety and fire. The sheriff's office has no objection to the application as submitted, but does have concerns that additional development will increase service demands for the following. And he added number of larcenies during construction period, additional patrols for the community, calls for what we call domestic calls and other family needs, enforcement of traffic violations and accidents, and additional service of civil processes and related activities that would fall to the sheriff's office. Based on the average number of calls for residential development per trip, the fire rescue department could anticipate an increase of 318 calls per year, or approximately 1 additional call per day, slightly less. They did state that the current staffing levels were adequate to address the additional calls. We did take a look at environmental historical resources. There was a wetlands delineation performed and confirmed by the U.S. Corps of Engineers. That was included in your staff report. There was also a resource protection area delineation that was submitted to staff and confirmed by the county and state. Again, wetland and RPA areas as shown on the concept plan are slated for permanent protection. The applicant will have to prove that any impact shown will be the minimum necessary and that they are permitted under CBPA and environmental regulations. There was a phase 1 environmental assessment that looked at past dumping, contamination, toxic materials, that kind of thing. And they did note the presence of derelict structures, junk, and inoperable vehicles that will be required to be removed prior to a preliminary plat submittal. The initial phase 1 cultural assessment revealed no findings. However, they said that the site itself had a moderate to high probability of finding archaeological resources on site, so they recommended a phase 1 study, which they did include in their proffered conditions. We also took a look at the fiscal impact analysis, which was reviewed by our Commissioner of Revenue. They proffered a minimum home size of 1,600 square feet with 400 square foot attached garage. The largest model has 2,800 square feet of living space with a 480 square foot garage. The average county assessment for a home like this comparable is about $375,000, and a comparable market value average is $462,000. They project the single-family portion to provide $13,665,663 in real estate tax revenue over 20 years. The estimated cost burden is about half that at $6.8 million per year, with the project's estimated factor of revenue versus cost of 2 to 1. The Commissioner of Revenue, as I noted, didn't have any concerns. So lastly, the comprehensive plan analysis. The project, as I noted before on the map, the urban residential designated land use is along the frontage along Route 10, and suburban residential and environmental conservation areas are on the rear of the property. There's a small portion of the project area designated as business appointment. However, it only has the main entrance road with no proposed uses. Urban residential uses are recommended for single-family or multifamily housing types on smaller lots, attached single-family homes such as townhomes, multiplex and apartment-style residential uses. They're best located on major transportation routes and at major intersections adjacent to and supporting mixed use and business and employment. Suburban residential are typically residential uses that are around a quarter acre in size with sidewalks and amenities. They consist of single-family homes, environmental preservation areas, and community amenities. The suburban residential land use is best located in close proximity to major transportation routes and major intersections. The project, as proposed, is generally consistent with the future recommended land use plan. So the ordinance analysis included a look at the proposed conceptual plan and project compared to our existing plan development residential zoning ordinance. And these areas or zoning districts are designed to encourage innovative and creative design of residential development, maximize conservation and efficient use of open space and natural features, provide a variety of affordable types of housing, and they are recommended at locations within the development service district where public benefits are available, such as highway improvements, public water and sewer, parks, and other needed community facilities to serve these areas. This project is also in the Newport Development Service Overlay District and the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area Overlay District. With their enhanced criteria, they would be required to meet that. And the next step in the preparation of this site following approval, if it gets approved, is the submission of a phase 1 architectural and archaeological study, followed by a boundary line vacation plat and preliminary plat. So following this analysis, this shifted somewhat because we did get a set of revised proffers following publication of the agenda. And when you received your agenda package on Wednesday, they did submit revised proffers that I sent to you through email on the 19th for, they did revise their proffers to include school proffers as well as revised transportation improvements. So strengths of this project that staff found was that the project was overall consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future recommended land use plan. The project does propose proffered conditions which will reduce the strain on existing public parks and recreation facilities, schools, and roads. There is sufficient capacity for fire rescue and sheriff's office operations to accommodate the additional calls for service. Weaknesses include the TIA shows the project will negatively impact traffic. However, the applicant has proffered road improvements to mitigate these impacts, but the proposed proffer language dated March 19th needs to be clarified. Again, we received this on Thursday afternoon. I feel like that the language could be tightened up a little bit. The county attorney hasn't had a chance to review it. VDOT has had a chance to review it. They have no concerns with the proffers as written. The project will cause negative school facility impacts. However, the applicant has proffered a cash contribution to assist with increasing capacity for schools. But again, the proffer language has to be clarified. I felt like that there needs to be a little more time for review of this. So based on the weaknesses of the application, as of tonight, noted in the findings, staff recommends denial of the application at this time, or perhaps even, continued discussion at a future date. I'll be available for questions following the public hearing.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ring. We open the public hearing for this application. If the applicant's present, they can come forward and speak now.
Good evening, Commissioner, Chairman of the Commission and Commissioners. My name's Brian Lane. I'm a land surveyor with Parish Lane Design Group. And we didn't come to this project very easily. Actually, this project started when your comp plan, started.
Sir, can you state your address, please?
Yeah, I can. The address is 7021 Harborview Boulevard, Suffolk, Virginia.
Thank you.
Yeah. And when the land use plan was being revised, we worked with staff. We came out to the town hall meetings. Actually, the layout that you see in front of you was an iteration of what we presented at that time. And we worked with the staff at that time. And Amy was very outgoing with us, and we felt like that this is a project that the county wanted. It was a mixed-use type project. Now, so we didn't get here easy, so this has been a long 5 years, and out of those 5 years, it has. You can look through the application. We have survived OpenGov. We didn't start with OpenGov. We survived that. We lost our planner. She retired. And Amy took it over then. And we've had a lot of back and forth. But one of the biggest things in here that I really want to point out is working with VDOT. And we're going to talk about these weaknesses in a minute, because we're definitely open to listen to what we need to do to make this the best application we can make it. We feel like we have a very strong application now. Amy did a great job of presenting what the strengths were, and I want to touch on some of those. We also had 2 Civic League meetings, so we were trying to get the community input. And Mr. Buckard, everybody knows him. He's actually reached out. I talked to him today. We're going to go back and talk with him again, because last time we met, he just wants to get reintroduced back to the project. And we're fine doing that. We want to run to those who think it's a concern with what we're bringing and see what we can do. We're not hiding from anyone. The fiscal report, you can see it's a 2-to-1. It's in the county's favor. Not only is there a tax generation, the developer and home builder who's here tonight, Mr. Scott Overton and his nephew, Matt, they use local contractors. They don't haul in material from everywhere else or whoever the best rate is at the time. They try real hard. They're business owners in this area, and they try real hard to use the locality. Actually, I talked to Mr. Gwaltney about that, and he was really appreciative with what we were trying to do there. The multifamily buildings, that was brought up a little while ago. We were in some meetings with, Amy's correct, we did come in with market rate apartments in the beginning, not understanding that there's a term that means two different things with the county, and I think y'all have experienced that before, and that term is multifamily uses. So that's what we want to bring is a multifamily use is, and the reason is because it does allow a condo option and it does allow a market rate option for what you would call apartments. So that's the clarification that Amy was talking about earlier. Our phase one and our archaeological study, they were conducted, and we went back out and looked again because we did find some things that we wanted to make sure we knew what was going on. So we did something a little different, and that's what you call a phase 1A. So we went out and did more studies to determine what are we really impacting here. And that's why you have two separate studies and the proffer that we're going to keep taking a look at that if we make it to that point. The concept plan, I do want to talk about the concept plan. So there's a lot of things that we had to change in there. One was the access road. And that was not easy to come by. Mr. Overton, they didn't own that property at that time. They had to buy that property to provide the access road out to Turnerway because that's where VDOT said the future signal would be. Not only did they say that's where the future signal would be, they also said that we want you to go back and analyze that signal to see if it's really necessary. Yeah, they really did. And it's already proffered. So we did. And also on that concept plan, you see where we've tried to do a layout that works with the existing topo of the property. We've got our stormwater situated in the low areas. We got the pump station. Yes, this will need a pump station. That's in our proffer that we will meet the LOS on the utilities. That's in the low area. We've taken a hard look at where these things need to happen. We feel like that we've got a nice layout with the property. Traffic, that was a weakness that she pointed out. Now, we think we've got a strength. The reason VDOT took so long to get us approval on the proffer, which just happened last week, there was a time we thought we were ready to move forward. And VDOT had looked at things, and they said that there's an existing use or existing issue that you're not really in your service area, but we want to talk about it. So we went out and we looked at it. That existing issue is if you're coming down Route, 258 to take a left onto Route 10 with the new construction there, there's a turn lane that it's a level, it's a LOSF right now. It fails right now without us adding one house. I don't know how it got that way. I can just tell you it's that way. And we took a look at it and worked with VDOT up to the last minute to figure out how to make it a little better. And we proffered a way to make it a little better. And that is really taking the taper out and making all the storage we can that will bring it to about 700 feet of storage. I have 3 minutes left. I wanted to introduce Mr. Overton so he can tell you a little bit about who they are and why they're here. And also our traffic engineer is in the back who knows a whole lot about that stuff than I do.
All right.
Scott Overton, 50 River Edge Drive, Suffolk, Virginia. Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. It's been a long journey getting here. Amy has been with us on the journey as well. Brian asked me to just share a little bit about who we are. The project has been demonstrated any number of ways to you, but we are a local family business. I represent the fourth generation of our business. Matt Benson's here with me tonight. He's a part of the fifth generation of our business. We have been developing and building in this area since the late 80s. Specifically adjacent to this area, we've been up at near the new Obici Hospital for 35 years. We've developed and built approximately 900 or so homes and provided many opportunities for
commercial uses as well as medical offices and other uses in that corridor. So we've been here a long time. Our latest job that Amy referenced, the one we're currently doing, is known as Planter Station. The picture of the home that you see is representative of what we've been doing there since we started in 2017. That job is 191 residential units for sale and 16 acres of commercial. And most of you, I'm sure, know that there's a new Publix grocery store there now. Chick-fil-A just opened out in front. There's McDonald's. We're currently building a credit union and a new dental practice on the parcel as well. And we're about 85% through with the home construction process. For a little further look, if you care to, we're currently developing what's known as Spencer's Watch on Bennett Pasture Road in Suffolk. It's adjacent to John Yates Middle School. And if you want to get a feel for how we do things, you're welcome to drive by there at your leisure. We're finishing the site work now and hope to start the model centers here in the next 30 days. As it relates to the project in front of you, we've owned this property for over 20 years. We've been very methodical and patient to try to get to the point we are today. We were invited into the process of the latest comprehensive plan by Amy, and we were active participants in that. We feel like the project is very representative of what the county's determined as the highest and best use for the site. And we look forward to working with you if we're able to continue forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is someone else from your project want to speak? Okay. All right. Is there anyone present like to speak for or against this application? You can come forward at this time.
Hi, my name's Richard Warren. I live at 15351 Bench Church Boulevard, and I also own 15325, which is parcel 015. I actually paid the original permits on that property in 2013 to have the power meter installed, as well as the permits to have the horse shelter built and power installed into the building on that property. Permits which were all handled through Will Blair and Jessica Moore, finalized in 2017. Main reason I'm here tonight is when I seen the proposal for the entrance, it cuts right through my legal property. Brass tags that were surveyed and are on file with the county are legally my property. That's the main reason I'm here tonight. I don't know how any of this slipped through the cracks. My grandfather originally owned it. I had a mobile home there. I was overseas. The home burnt down. I still own it. And I live in the property right next door, which I just purchased less than 2 years ago because it attaches to the same piece of property. So I would think they would need a little bit more research into this, just to make sure that they're perfectly clear on the entrance, whether there's going to be a right-of-way. That's my main concern as a resident. I've had dump trucks flip from Bench Church Boulevard into my yard. I had a dump truck flip, go through my horse pen. One of my horses got out, got hit by a car. This is all just in the past few years to where we had to get rid of the horses. So main reason is I would like this to be looked at just a little bit more precise, go through some of the previous deeds, and make sure that even that entranceway, the light, anything else is fully legitimate and legal. And I hope that you guys would take the time to understand that I don't believe this has been thoroughly looked at. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else present like to speak for or against the project? All right, seeing none, we close the public hearing for this application. Questions, comments, commissioners?
I have questions.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that at some point we give the applicant the opportunity to rebuttal.
Okay, we can give it to him now. He wants to
With
wait.
ownership of the property, yes.
It's 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was news to me. That's the first I've heard it, and I was looking at the deed. It's definitely something that we're interested in looking at also, and I would be more than happy to talk. I didn't get your name, I'm sorry.
Richard Warren.
Okay.
I live in the house right next to it.
So it's definitely something we're going to look into. We've got the deed, so we'll just have to talk with him and see where that is coming from.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Borkins?
Schools.
Yes.
So I know for the last 2 years I've asked for a projected student generation versus an actual student generation. And we don't seem to have that answer.
No.
Is that something that we can, again, reach back out to the schools to get?
So the reason why we weren't able to produce it the last time you asked, which was about 6 months ago, we only found a couple of projects that actually had a professional student projection done. One of them was Ben's Grant, with the apartments being built out recently, the schools wanted to make sure that now that all of the units are occupied and built out and CO'd, that they had an accurate projection of how many students were actually being generated by that. So I can reach back out to them and see if they have those numbers yet.
Okay. And my other question is, I know that they addressed Smithfield High School. Did they say that any of the projections for the lower schools would put them in the 95%?
I didn't
Capacity?
see one that went into 95. It was mostly in the 80s.
Maybe, okay. Yeah, that was it. And just to go back to Mr. Warren, does that something that the staff looks at?
Yes,
and-
so we typically ask when they submit, as part of their application, a copy of the deed, and we check it against the real estate records for the county, which was done.
All right.
I have a couple questions. Looking at the fiscal impact study that was done, in there's a cost used to calculate what, the cost of the additional units are. It says the value is from 2018. Do we have any more current cost data than 2018?
So when this study was done, that was the most current one. Since then, we've had the update to the school study and our own growth rate study, which does provide later data, but it was well after that study had been reviewed and submitted, so.
It seemed to me costs have increased significantly since 2018. So I think
Yeah.
this claim of 2-to-1 increase versus cost is very inaccurate. Let's see. And another question I have, kind of more general, related to the cost of the school. So the CIP, we do have an expansion of the high school, 30 classrooms, $30 million. So that's only part of the cost. So what is also needs to be looked at is the annual cost to support that expansion. So does the school provide an estimate of what the annual cost is
For operational cost?
Operational cost?
No.
So why not?
So when we're, I don't know. When we were looking at the anticipated cost of the addition, it was for the purpose of accepting proffers.
Yeah.
So when we accept cash proffers, we can only accept them for expansion of capital facilities only. We cannot include operational costs. Obviously, there are going to be associated increases in operational costs for that as well, so.
So I understand the point about looking at proffers, but for the county, and we're going to have a lot of budget pressures to increase our budget. And school costs is going to continue to grow. I guess we know recently the school asked for a major increase, so we also have to account for increase in the annual cost. So that's another cost that we haven't really looked at. And again, so another separate item I'd like to get a little more update on. So in the comprehensive plan, there's a statement related to the sheriff's office about the growth in the North End, and it states that the sheriff's office foresees the need to establish a full-service facility in the area in order to accommodate the resources needed to serve the future growth. So that's in a comprehensive plan. I guess I'm wondering, has the sheriff's department looked at what would be needed, facilities needed, options to support all the growth in the North End and the cost associated with that?
So I can reach out and see if they are planning on including something in the CIP this year for that facility.
Okay. So again, there's another cost that we're going to see that we haven't considered. So one other area, I want to go back to the traffic impact. So this study, I think it estimated around 2,600 trips per day. So that's about a 10% increase. So my big concern is the additional increases from all the other developments that have been approved, or some still in construction, from Sweetgrass to Promontory, all of these. Is there a, I guess, collective study, a master impact analysis that's being?
For the whole corridor?
Yeah.
Not that we have. And I'll ask the traffic engineer to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but, so when each project comes in and submits a traffic impact analysis, they have what's called a scoping meeting at first, and it's usually between VDOT, the applicant's traffic engineer, and staff, and we sit down and we talk about what projects need to be included in the background growth for this particular study, or we agree on a general background rate of growth, and it usually matches the population growth at the time. So anything that has already been approved is considered background growth, with overall population growing at between, usually they choose a growth rate of between 1% and 2% a year. For this study, I think it was 1%. So
1% seems very, very low. So again, I think I'd like to see a study done to look at all the traffic impacts for currently approved projects that we know about. I mean, I don't think we're really, even VDOT may not be fully looking at the impact of all these developments occurring in the next, 3 to 5 years or so. I don't know, the traffic's going to get much worse.
you can add to it.
So Amy, she was correct. So when we submit a project, we do have scope meetings, and we sit with VDOT and determine what background traffic we need to look at. So we look at it first as an existing condition, and then the traffic generated for that existing condition, and then all of the projects that have been approved or not built, they're added in also. So when you look at a traffic report, if you look at the build condition, 100% build condition, which is in the report, you'll see where this project addresses all of those existing, because it was the Benz Grant, it was the Riverside, it was what other ones was it, Charles?
I'm just looking, I mean, it's everything in the corridor.
Yeah, so they do look at the traffic generated from the whole corridor as it is now, and then at the 100% build out. Because what Charles will have to do is track down those studies so he can plug them into his study. So yes, that does happen.
There is a study that looks at all of these developments that have been approved to sum up all the traffic impacts?
I need to say that a better way. Our study that we're required to analyze includes all of that traffic. Because so one thing that the traffic engineers will do, they'll determine what the probability is for traffic. This traffic is going to go right 80% of the time. So where are they going and how are they getting out? And what is happening in the existing condition and then in the build-out condition when we're done and the other projects too.
Well, maybe another question, maybe you can help me understand. In the traffic impact study I'm looking at right now, It uses the latest data of trips per day on Bench Church Boulevard North section is 24,000. That was in 2021. So again, looks like we're using old data. In fact, there's a report that was provided by the, what is it called? The Hampton Roads
Planning Commission.
Transportation Organization.
That's it. Thank you, George. That number shows a 2023 number is 29,000. So why are there discrepancies like that that seem to indicate the numbers are low in this study, impact study, when the numbers are really higher and getting higher and not accounting for all the other developments?
Okay, I got to defer that. I had to turn around and look for help.
Just to answer your question, so that table you're looking at was just.
Can you give us your name?
I'm sorry,
Address
Charles.
also, please.
Charles Smith.
Address.
Address. Our corporate address, 902 East Jefferson Street, Charlottesville. So that table you're looking at is just at the time of the study, the available data from VDOT for the ADT data. The data for the analysis at the time was counted in 2023, not 20. So that was like when we started doing the actual like intersection analysis. So those things are all in the appendix of the report. So those are from 2023. And then, yeah, Brian was correct about all the projects in the corridor that the county and VDOT said, these are all the things that are approved in the corridor. We do this, we're required to track them all down, like where are they in construction, add all those trips in that weren't there at the time of the various traffic counts. So if you get in the weeds, there's figures that show like all those projects and all the trips that are related to that. So for example, well, I don't remember the numbers, so I better not throw out numbers that aren't quite right, but we could dig through them if you want.
Well, I'm actually interested in looking at the weeds.
Yeah, okay.
So I like to see if there's available these reports that have the cumulative impact of all these developments.
Yeah. So in the traffic study that we provided, the scenario that's called no build means no build for us, but it includes all the other people that are already approved. So that
I find that hard to understand when the numbers that you're showing is current trips per day is less than what was recorded in 2023 by the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization.
So what do you think is current trips per day?
Well, I'm going by the report. This is the annual report that was provided in October 2025 from the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows on the Bench Church corridor, it's roughly from 2023, almost need my reading glasses here. Whoops, next page. Very fine print here. Thank you. It is 29,502.
Is it for the whole quarter or just the side with Smithfield or the side?
The side towards Smithfield, and what's in this report here, they're using the value of 24,000.
Yeah. So again, that number you're reading is just a for information table of at the time these are the ADTs, but so all the analysis is based on the peak hour volumes, and the peak hour volumes were counted in 2023 at the time we started doing it. So there's that table that shows the ADT. That's just information. Like this is that thing that table shows like historical numbers, right?
These are actual traffic counts.
Not the PDC.
Oh.
The one you're talking about, that's 2021 from our study.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are VDOT's traffic counts for the year to just show historic information.
Yeah.
So the analysis is based on the 2023 peak hour counts, and I guess when you were talking about peak hour counts, but so yeah, that number is just information, not what all the different analysis are based on.
Okay, I understand, as far as looking at peak hours and that is part of it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back and look at that. All of that.
Okay.
Can we table this?
Well,
Because I would like to have an updated traffic, an updated fiscal. I'd like to hear back from the schools. You even indicated that you'd like for our county attorney to look at the VDOT stuff. And I'd like for this to be tabled until every bit of information can come back to us.
And the deed issue needs to be settled as well.
And that as well, with an answer to the deed issue. But I also would like to request that peak times be from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m.
Okay, so that is established between VDOT and the traffic engineers at the time, and they use engineering rationales to why they pick the peak times.
We can't request.
So in order to do an entire new traffic impact analysis would be pretty costly and timely, and I don't want to speak for you all, but, and I'm not saying that, you know, I don't know if a memorandum or something could be added to to update the TIA or not, but we can certainly talk to them about that as well. The fiscal impact analysis, we can certainly ask for an updated memo to that. And I can provide all the appendices to the TIA. It's like 600 and some pages, so I didn't include it in
is that
the staff
master
report.
TIA?
Yeah,
or-
this is the master
Okay.
TIA that has all the appendices, that has all the model runs and everything with it. And I can certainly send that to you in a zip file or something if you'd like to take a look at that. Brian, you want to say something?
I'd like to add to that. So I think what Charles was saying, and Charles, I'm not trying to speak for you, is those numbers that were used in the traffic report, and Amy, they don't have the whole report. It's
No, they
like
have-
700 pages.
yes.
Yeah. So you don't have the whole report. So what we'll do is Amy, we'll make sure you get the whole report. Because we think we have a complete, up-to-date numbers. You know, now they may be, when were those numbers pulled? 23?
Which ones?
The average, the traffic count.
So the actual traffic count from the analysis for 2020.
Yeah. So we think we have that. So we would ask, here's what we would ask, that you look at the report, please get back to Amy so you know, so we know what you're asking us to do. Because I don't know right now what you're asking us to do. As far as the fiscal, I worked with Mr. Gwaltney on that. We'll look at it. We'll see where you're coming from, and I'll call you personally, Mr. John. I think I did call you. Did you get my message?
I was traveling this past week, and I didn't, I just got back in at
Okay.
3 o'clock today.
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, give me a call, and we'll talk about that, and we'll see what we can do with it.
Mr. Lane, I have two questions. Can you, switching directions for a minute, can you tell us, and I've read your report and I see your numbers, can you tell us what you think your average sales price of your houses are going to be?
Yeah, we went back and
And how
forth
you
with Mr.
and
Gwaltney.
how you
Mr. Gwaltney
compare-
is a tough one, I tell you that now. I'm going to let the home builder answer that.
And how your price is going to compare to the market?
I mean, obviously, the market dictates the price. I can tell you that from, where we are right now, right up the street on Route 10 at Planter Station, we start our product offerings at 1,900 feet for just under $450,000. They go up to 3,000 square feet, and that price is at around $550,000. So our idea is to bring the same or similar homes that we build now. Now, you all know that designs change because people's ideas of what they want change, and we have to move with the market. But that would be our intention, is to continue doing what we've been doing there since 2017. Does that answer that question?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ring, being that this is basically right across the street from Ben's Grant, what's the numbers over there, the fill out? Are they completely maxed out?
They are completely built out, yes.
Okay.
What's the average cost over there?
It's probably about
560.
450. 450.
So it's not a big, too big of a difference in between.
No.
I guess the only real difference right here, you're talking about, everything is over there is like condominiums, like, it's a single. Well, they got some singles, but, you know, you ain't no yard out there, man. I don't even call that a single family. Okay, is there a motion? Somebody?
I'll make a motion that we table this until we have all of the answers.
I just think we have to be clear on what all the answers are.
Right. Yeah, what, I mean,
That's not fair to the
when we
applicant.
say all of the answers, what are the questions? And
Well,
we-
he referenced the fiscal impact analysis from 2018.
I understand that, but I'm saying what we need to make sure that we're asking and that it's clear what it is that we're asking for. That's all I'm saying.
Going back to the 2-to-1 ratio, making sure that that cost, whatever the word is, cost.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
ratio of
Yeah. that-
revenue to cost, correct.
Yeah, that's updated. And I would like to see some type of I mean, even from 2023, we're still 3 years beyond that.
Right, so I guess some of the traffic, I'm gonna need to see what Keith is looking at, because traffic volumes are broken down by different road segments, so but one segment of Ben's Church Boulevard closer to Smithfield's gonna have a higher traffic count than the one that's closer to the Suffolk City line. And, I mean, we can certainly confirm with the traffic engineer to make sure he has the latest number, or if he can't provide an update number. The fiscal impact impact analysis was not that big, so we can certainly make sure we have the latest tax assessment information and tax rates included in that analysis.
And just the school student projection.
Yeah, and I can ask
projection
about the
stuff.
school
And
student
then,
projection, because there was only 2 developments currently in the county that had professional student projections done. One was Ben's Grant. Everything since then has had them done, but they're not built out yet or haven't finished out. So I believe we did one for the Nest, and I think I did provide those numbers, but I can check again.
And then,
And then the deed issue,
thing,
of course, yes.
The attorneys.
And the
Yes,
attorney will need to
and
look at the
the attorney,
profit
yeah.
condition, correct? And the developer was reminding me, and I'll lean to Mandy on this one, but I believe you all have a time limit on when it can, how late it can come back.
Well, it
90
has to be
days.
tabled to a date certain, and I think it has to be within,
I think 90 days.
I'm not sure if it's 90 or 60. I'll have to look real quick if you want to just
I would
keep
just-
chatting and I'll look it up.
I want to address the deed issue for a minute, and I understand both parties' situation, but that, I think, in my opinion, that's clearly a civil issue between the 2 parties, and I don't think this board has any privy over that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, you know, we asked for the deed as part of the application, and we check it against the current real estate records, and as long as they match. And it
I mean,
has- they have
I
control.
fully understand what the applicant, what the gentleman is saying, but I just don't think that's the purview of this board.
Right.
That's fine.
But if that's part of our requirement to check it against what they gave as a part of that package.
Yeah, we just need to make sure it's accurate.
Right.
Which I'm sure they can settle.
Okay,
I would do that for 60 days, just to, not to run afoul if it is 60.
And I won't be here for that meeting, but I'll make sure somebody will
And
be.
to do that, you would need to
That's
set
our
it
May
on the
meeting?
April 28th, because the May is May 26th. It's going to be outside.
May 26th is outside,
Yeah.
April 28th. And
April
that should
28th.
give them enough time to confirm their numbers and make sure that we have the latest information.
okay.
And the school information, the school data?
The school data is, Jennifer had asked to see, like, how close the student projection numbers were to what the actual students generated were coming out of those developments. However, we did just adopt, or didn't adopt, but the school board just adopted the new revised student generation rates by Tischler Bice in November. And that's what we use to calculate the 96 students coming out of this development that we presented tonight. And those numbers are supposed to be based on actual numbers coming out of certain developments. So they should be pretty close to accurate right now.
Okay, let's get back to the motion, so make sure the motion is clear of what we are asking. It was that
Repeat
you
all
were
that
asking?
again?
No, okay, no, basically it was 3 things, I think, and if I'm saying
Yes.
correctly. Analysis from the school,
Yes.
okay, we want to hear back from the attorney. and whatever traffic impact that they could bring back. Is that what we were asking?
And fiscal,
And fiscal.
yes.
And to ensure that the deed matches, right?
That's outside of our
Outside, yeah.
scope, so.
Yeah.
But we'll hear back from that anyway. Okay?
Okay.
So that was our motion?
Second.
Table? The second by Ms. Ford. Roll call, please.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
James Ford.
Yes.
Jennifer Boykin.
Yes.
Rainier Gibbs.
Yes.
Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Brian Shotwell.
Yes.
George Rawls.
Yes.
Keith Johnson.
Yes.
Thomas DeStefano.
Yes.
Bobby Bowser.
Yes. All right, this will be tabled till our April meeting?
April 28th. April 28th.
Before you come back, you want
Yeah,
to, we need to enter
Mr. Chairman,
those.
there were 2 letters that were sent. We just need to enter those into the record.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Lane.
Okay, so I understand the schools, because I want to understand what we're doing too. So schools, Amy, you're going to get me that, right? And traffic, we're looking at, what are we doing with traffic?
Talk to Ms. Rinkett.
Make sure we have the latest information.
Okay, so I'll work with you on that, and Julie. The attorney, what do we do with the attorney?
He just needs to be here to review the latest set of proffer conditions.
Okay, so
He's
that's
on vacation.
proffers, and I know what to do on that. Okay, all right, thank you.
And I, it's just, I don't know if it's appropriate. I do have a question in regards to in regards to the traffic. I think for me, I think what I'm trying to get an understanding of is we say when we take into all the projects that are lined up in that corridor, and I'm just gonna use, I think you said you've had this property for 20 years. Would your property for 20 years have been calculated in, you see what I'm getting at? We've got projects that are approved that are sitting there inactive. And if all of those went active tomorrow, how is all of that gonna instantly impact? And I shouldn't say instantly because we know it's a process. And I think that's where some of my questions come from, is how do we calculate what's being calculated, and are there projects that have been on the books that are approved are a part of that?
So one thing I could do for the April 28th meeting is maybe have, I'll see if our transportation manager is available, and she could probably give you a really good primer on how TIAs work.
Okay, thank you.
Because there are 2 options when you do a TIA. You can either go through and count exactly how many units and what improvements have already been proffered in the system, and use that to base your, future impacts, or you can do what's called background growth, which means that the population and the traffic are increasing by a certain percentage each year. And you're not worried about exactly what developments are happening when.
Okay, okay.
However, they do take into consideration all the proffered transportation improvements and planned projects that the county is doing. So it's a constantly changing kind of landscape where certain projects are going to be in place in a certain number of years that don't exist now. Certain turn lanes are going to happen, certain traffic lights are going to happen.
Okay.
And it all changes your impacts. And there are certain segments of the road, to include this section of Ben's Grant or Ben's Church Boulevard, that are really not showing much growth at all in terms of traffic.
Right.
At least according to VDOT studies, so,
Okay, yeah, especially compared to the Smithfield end of it.
yeah, Smithfield End's happening a lot faster.
Yes,
Ms. Rinkett, with that being said, does a coordination with, and I guess it's Ms. Jamie Oliver?
Yes,
Those figures that come in like that, do we coordinate with her
yes,
on those?
yes.
Okay. Because I understand what Mr. Johnson is saying, but I think the way, in my opinion, I think the way some of these numbers are generated, we may not understand some of the nuances of those metrics that they give us. And so that will help us a lot of times when we're looking at these reports and interpreting some of the, for example, like and I want you to know that your question about the peak hours, well, it might be a definitive peak hour that is used, to determine it. I don't know if it's increased from 6 to 9 or whatever. I don't know what they're using. But I think that is something that we need to just kind of get under our belts in terms of checking the validity of those data that are, quoted in these reports and things.
Just add one more comment. So, these traffic impact studies really look at intersections local to that development.
Yes.
Now, our case situation is a little different because we don't have that many roads coming in and out of the county. And a lot of this traffic is going to end up on Carrollton Boulevard. And that's not really being looked at these studies for Sweetgrass or this one, or even probably Mallory Point. But a lot of these commuters will be going down Carrollton Boulevard, so I don't know how that, that really broadens the scope of what you'd have to look at, but it seems like that should be somehow considered.
So for specific projects like this that aren't master regional kind of TIAs, there's a certain radius that they look at, and I don't know how many, quarter mile, half a mile, mile?
It's usually a mile.
A mile. So, and then we can ask for more than that. So that's kind of why we went out, I think, originally to look at the Brewer's Neck and Route 10 intersection, because it was beyond a mile. We felt it was important to add that.
But all that traffic's coming down Carrollton Boulevard.
Yes.
Well, a lot of it's passed through going to Suffolk as well.
Yes.
And
There's that
Surrey
too.
and everywhere else, which
So
changes.
even the development in
their
Suffolk
peak or off peak.
influences us as well.
Yes.
And the modern Merrimack influences us as well.
But we also have to be mindful to judge each project on its deficiencies or merits. If we look at the holistic view of everything we do, it's greater than traffic. It's public safety, it's schools, it's everything. The culmination of Sweetgrass and Promontory and Mallory Point is a much bigger picture than what we're looking at with the merits of just this one particular project.
I agree with you. I think we're saying all these developments are gonna happen right away. He's been sitting on this property for 20 years.
And I know it seems like that we're kind of bringing a lot of this up. You just happen to be the applicant that has brought this to, this thought process to us, so.
I'm glad we could help.
Appreciate that.
It's been there.
It has.
It really has been there.
Charles wanted to offer a kind of a further explanation of peak hours, how they come up with that.
I think I can give you some info that would be maybe helpful. So, so the actual counts, not just like the daily count, but like the turning movement counts that all the analysis is based on, those are done, it depends, but like maybe 12 hours at a time. And then the thing to remember is that, so all the equations that define how we evaluate how an intersection works, they're based on the peak hour and the peak 15 minutes. So the actual counts tell us what the actual peak hour is, and the actual peak hour 15 minutes, because there's a factor that goes with that we use. So at the scoping meet, it's not like we say, okay, we're going to evaluate 7:15 to 8:15. We say we're going to evaluate the AM, possibly midday, possibly PM, like whatever is important to the stakeholder, those peak hours, and then we figure out what those peak hours actually are, because the equations that we have to use to calculate that, they are based on the actual peak hour and the actual peak 15 minutes. And then on the other side, when we figure out what the trips are, there's I don't know, hundreds of thousands of data points that say, like, for example, a single family development generates this number of trips. All of those things are then tagged to the peak hour, the actual peak hour of the adjacent street. So all of that stuff is related to what the actual peak hour is that you count and figure out what it is. So almost always, maybe there's a few exceptions, but almost always what the stakeholders say is we're interested in like the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour. Those are the two obvious ones. And then an actual count figures out what those hours are. So, 7:15 to 8:15 or whatever that is. So it's not like somebody said, okay, I just want you to think about 7:15 to 8:15. The entire traffic, like the traffic for the whole, the busy part of the day was considered. Yeah. So it's, yeah. So if there's like a school, for example, like they would say, well, make sure you count like during the whatever time the school starts or school ends, and so forth. So yeah. So the peak hour is what's required in order to actually do all the various calculations.
And the time frame is actually 100 days for the board to consider and make. So if you wanted to do a motion to reconsider and give additional time, you could go all the way through to the June 23rd meeting.
Can we do it in the next about 40 days? I think if that's what we've got.
Can you table it as?
No, I'm saying about the information coming back. Do we need more time?
How much time do we have now? When do we come back? As it is.
Right now, we're coming back on April the 28th. Is that gonna be enough time?
You're not gonna get it from the school by then, I would doubt.
I doubt it also.
Well, the school's
So we
just
can't do it in May.
the school's just providing enrollment data and confirmation about one or two of the school projections that we did.
Yeah, but you know how we get from school. That's a situation.
Or not.
I'm waiting for almost 2
Yeah.
years.
You can go all the way through the June 23rd and you'll still be
What did you
fine.
think, Ms. Ring? Do we need to go that far?
I'm gonna look to the applicants to
Yeah.
see what they need.
Let's do it 60. Let's do 60 days.
May
60 days?
So we're gonna go to May.
Okay, then that's a little over 60.
Well, that will give us time to work with Amy.
That's May 26th. That's the May 26th. So you need to do a
It'll be
motion
on
to
our agenda in the
reconsider.
May meeting.
Yeah, do a motion to reconsider. That's got to be voted on first, and then you just vote again on the motion.
Okay.
So what
Is that
do
good?
I
So we send a motion.
So do I
Just
need
to
to rescind my
reconsider?
motion?
Yeah.
Reconsider.
Motion to reconsider.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? None? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Now you restate your motion as though you didn't have the previous motion. Motion to table.
So I make a motion to table
To table.
for 60 days.
Well, to May 26th.
To May 26th for the fiscal analysis, traffic analysis, school projections, and county attorney to review the proffers. Thank you.
All right. Got a second over here, but Mr. Bryan? Okay. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We've been here, do we need a quick break, or are we good to go? Everybody? Okay. Just want to say one thing, as we get ready to go into, old business. I'm really surprised the number of people showed up tonight for this application.
Nobody. I
they didn't show.
cannot
They didn't show.
believe it.
Me too.
I am
My
shocked.
observation. Okay, for a project this big.
Shocked, yes.
Okay.
They'll sit on Facebook and complain about it all day long.
Can you read the application for old business?
We did have 2 letters received. Did you want those
Yeah,
to
they
go?
Yes,
moved.
those two letters, yes, Brian mentioned.
All right, proposed battery energy storage system, BESS zoning ordinance requirements. An ordinance to amend and reenact Appendix B zoning Article B. Supplementary use regulations, Section 5-5003M, utility services major of the Isle of Wight County zoning ordinance for the purpose of adding regulations for battery energy storage systems.
So I'm bringing up the latest draft of the battery energy storage facility that was in your agenda package. As you recall from at your last meeting, you asked to continue your discussion until tonight's meeting under old business to give a few of you all a few more days to review some of the comments that we had received. And I did receive comments from Mr. Johnson with regard to asking for both a pre-construction noise study and a post-construction noise study, which I did add into this ordinance. And you'll find that underlined in red, as well as we did move the ability for the applicant to modify their conceptual plan as long as gave the ability of the zoning administrator approval authority for minor adjustments to the conceptual plan as long as it had to do with noise abatement. So we moved that out of one section into its own item. We also adjusted, based on your last discussion, we reduced the distance between the fence and the equipment to 50 feet. However, we increased the distance between the security fence and the adjacent property lines and public roads to 300 feet, so the net was still 350-foot setback. You all had expressed some concern, as well as the speaker here, about taking up too much area between the fence and the equipment, and that you could reduce the footprint of the facility itself by reducing the setback between the equipment and the fence. But however, you were concerned about maintaining that adequate setback between the facility itself and the whole and the adjacent properties and the road. So those are the things that changed. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I know one of the things that Mr. Johnson brought up, and Mr. Johnson, you jump in, was a concern about the DBA limit, 50 feet at the adjacent property line. And what other localities required. I know that you said you found some that let them have higher decibel levels, whereas we required 50 feet. And I think the decision to choose 50 was based not only on other localities' levels, but also on our own experience with the noise impacts to adjacent properties. And so we felt the need to reduce it further from the 60 that we currently have in the solar ordinance. However, I'm open to discussion in any way y'all want to discuss it. I just thought I'd bring that up to the group because it was a concern that was raised.
I just saw the difference. I'm certainly no expert on how to quantify those differences between 50 versus 55 or 60, but 50 is pretty low, but maybe we should be more restrictive to start with anyway.
You should live next to one of them.
Well, so going back to, the idea of having a pre-construction noise study and a post, I think previously we had, at the time of application, we had to have a noise study. But the more I thought about that, that's just kind of a prediction in a sense, based on the equipment being selected. So that's good to know at the beginning, have an idea what it's going to be. But really, the real, is telling answers when it's actually built. What do we actually get? So that's one of the idea of having a post-construction noise study with measurements. And then, I think, did we include the part about including noise mitigation methods?
I think you did. We did for the post.
Yeah.
Does
So
it call out a dB level?
Well, currently it's 50.
Yeah.
So,
So,
and I saw this, so I did some more research. I found this type of pre and post study in Loudoun County, Frederick, and some of the other ones in Northern Virginia. I feel like they've got a lot of experience with these types of facilities and noise issues.
so it does say that if the post-construction noise levels do not meet the maximum noise level requirements, noise mitigation measures are required and must be implemented to achieve compliance. The BESS owner shall determine noise mitigation measures which are certified by the Commonwealth of Virginia, PE. After noise mitigation measures are approved by the zoning administrator, the measures shall be provided and installed within 6 months.
Is there another noise study after the mitigation has been, you know what I mean? Do we know that that's going to be sufficient to deal with it?
So the noise limit at 50 decibels is required. If we get a complaint that it's over 50, we can have them do another one. I mean, that exists now.
I think the last sentence may be addressed. It says, after noise mitigation measures are approved by the zoning administrator, the measure shall be provided and installed by the best owner and then verified by noise level measurements
Yeah,
within
there it is.
6 months.
So yeah, that'd be a post.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to ask, Mr. Carroll, how is the blanket working out?
It's just as loud as it ever was. And, I don't know that decibels are as important as pitch, and I don't know how you measure pitch. I'm not a noise scientist, but I would dare say Loudoun County has very many quiet areas to begin with. But it was generally pretty quiet in my house until we decided to build solar out there.
That's what I think, somebody's living in a 30 decibel area, and then all of a sudden they're dealing with a 50 decibel. And I was just gonna ask, did everybody get Mr. Tucker's suggestions, recommendations?
Oh, yes. Tucker, you don't want anything. I'm sorry.
Well, personally for me, I loved it. I loved what he put together. I thank him very much for putting it together. And, I would love to see this become our ordinance.
I've asked the county attorney to have a meeting with me to talk about those recommendations, because there were some legal issues with those recommendations.
I'd be curious to know what they were. Yeah, just for an update from, yeah.
Sure.
See what. I also liked what he put in there about, just the emergency response plan and working with the sheriff's office in particular, and having notification alerts so that, we're not just getting called, oh, there's a fire. If there's something going on site, that at least there's they can notify the sheriff's office or EMS that we could have a potential problem.
Right, so the emergency response plan is supposed to address all that we've already covered in our our proposed ordinance. So that was the reason for bringing in fire and rescue and their fire safety manager to talk about, what the current state requirements were, what this, current standard practices were, and what our expectations were from the county side.
And were the legal issues that you were concerned about, were they having to deal with the, where is it at? The fines?
Not necessarily the fines as much as the authorities, reviewing authorities, approval authorities are already established by state code and elsewhere in our ordinance and state code, so there was no need to repeat them again in our ordinance. It basically presents conflicts.
What did you think of the fines?
I'm okay with the fines. I don't have an issue with the fines.
I keep going back to AES and just how horrible they've been. And it seemed like that nothing, until Mr. Carroll's dog was killed, that, conditions were not, they weren't put on lockdown. They weren't shut down until that happened. I feel like they had no respect for the conditions that we put in there. And they spent months violating a lot of them with no recourse, with no challenges or anything.
Right.
So I like that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I'd just like to say, I think it's important that we move an ordinance forward and we encourage the board to get this ordinance approved before July 1.
All right.
I agree with you. This is why I think, Mr. Tucker's email should be reviewed. And I wouldn't want to pass that buck on normal situations to the Board of Supervisors. The timing of, the action Richmond is expected to take is important. And so passing it while it's in parallel of any additions that Mr. Tucker is recommending is important.
Yeah.
We can always adjust it later, but
Yeah.
we need to move something forward.
And the board can always adjust it when they get it. Yeah.
And as part of that, we go back to review this, I think we can probably improve the noise requirements related to solar section as well. So I think maybe do an update and.
An update.
Right, correct.
I know you're working on a data storage ordinance.
I think we're up to 42 zoning ordinance changes.
Oh, my gosh.
Can we make a motion?
Yes.
Motion that we move it forward as presented?
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
James Ford.
Yes.
Jennifer Boykin.
Yes.
Raynard Gibbs.
Yes.
Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Brian Shotwell.
Yes.
George Rawls.
Yes.
Keith Johnson.
Yes.
Thomas DeStefano.
Yes.
Bobby Bowser.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I ask one question, Ms. Ring, while you're there?
Sure.
Just, there's been a lot of studies that have come out lately, or articles that have come out lately about the loss of agricultural production and farmland in surrounding jurisdictions. Can we get a number from the county as to the loss in the last 10 years?
Sure.
And solar farms don't count as farming.
So I know with the 2022 Census of Agriculture, I think they reported that we lost about 382 acres.
I would suggest, to Mr. Johnson's point on traffic analysis, that that's probably not accurate.
Yeah, so next one out is due in 27, so it'll be interesting to see
I can tell you how much we've lost in our farming operation, and it exceeds that number.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
let's go with that's really not accurate.
Right, right. And the 22 number was out before all, Cavalier developed. Several of our larger
Right.
solar farms developed out, so.
One other question, on some other reports, the group Tischler Weiss, I guess that was pronounced, Tischler. They had done a fiscal impact analysis, it was presented to us a while back. It went to the board, did that get finalized, or what's?
Yes.
It is, so it's out there available somewhere?
Yes.
How about the school impact analysis?
Yes, that was finalized in November, yeah.
If I can find it somehow in there.
Yeah, so I can send it to you, and it should be available on the school's website. I need to update our website, because that was just done in January.
Okay.
I know that there's a map that we have that we've seen before, and we were just talking about this earlier, of all the different proposed projects out there, development and those types of things. Can you send us another one out at some point?
Sure, it's actually on our economic development website.
Okay,
I can show it to you.
I can find it there. Yeah.
July 2025 is the latest.
Okay.
That's the one
So
I
we've
just
had
threw
some-
away.
It's actually been, we have been up, some updates since then.
Okay.
That's-
All right, is there a county's report tonight?
There
County
is
attorney's report?
no, I'm sorry.
County
It's a
attorney?
county
No.
attorney.
Okay. You want to apply for that position? All right. Plan director, report.
There are no planning director reports this evening. I'm sorry. I was only half listening. I was looking for our development map.
I'll get it.
Chairman Bowser, I would just ask, you may want to clarify that was recommended for approval at the next meeting on April
The next board
16th.
meeting? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Tell Mr. Jones what a good job you do.
Well, I appreciate it. I had to make her do a motion to reconsider, so she may not feel that way.
All right. Our hearts and minds clear? Is there a motion for adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Nobody said second, but it's just one person. Whole right side want to stay.
Not the whole right side.
Go out there.